your chat, so many people in your chat are so fucking stupid. Susie Baca, this is how radicals lose the centrists. Okay, and they're talking about court packing. The Republicans packed the court. You stupid fucks.
Okay, wait.
They packed the court. They packed the court by stealing Obama's nominee, and then they packed the court again by changing their own fucking rule in 2020. They packed the court. And this idea that, oh my God, if we defy precedent, they already have a Republican supermajority. It's very likely that at the end of Trump's presidency, they will have a MAGA supermajority. Okay, we can't do anything because Republicans, when they try to act in bad faith, they're going to act in bad faith anyway. Stupid fucks.
So this is a conversation.
You can't wield power aggressively because you can't defend yourself because, like, what if, like, your abuser hits you back harder? You
base.
The moment that they go for that,
I'm obviously not talking about all of Hutch's chat. Just want to put that out there, just the stupid ones.
The moment that they go for that, they need to.
Wait, I actually hate that he let him get away on that. Hold on.
And I think that the court now. I'm going to dip out. I've had to piss so badly for like an hour and a half. And Hutch, I just want to say again, this is part of the problem. This is what I mean. My day, just talking to you is so much fun.
It is,
and it ends up becoming an 8-hour fucking thing. Yeah, but the problem is, like, way it's going to cause, I don't know, this massive political catastrophe for us. We're already on the cusp of political catastrophe because so many people, you included, think that it's like you're playing with dynamite.
You are.
Maybe we need to start taking risks, bro.
But you are playing with dynamite if you do this.
You're frustrating me because you give me the impression of somebody who never wants to fight and who only wants to fight when we're 1 inch away from success, which isn't going to happen.
We're fighting right now, and I support it wholeheartedly, bro.
Wait a minute.
I never want to fight.
Did I just say?
I love the fight that we're doing right now.
I think if Schumer kicked the can down the road again, if he had done what he did in April, in 2 months you would have been saying, yeah, that was the right move to make. To the extent that you support the fight.
No. We talked about it. We talked about it on the podcast, bro. I told you they should pick this fight right now. Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, buddy, I was trying to find you this poll. You mentioned something about Democrats being seen as more extreme. I have a bookmark somewhere. It's a recent poll.
Josiah's been weirdly hostile / irritated towards Hutch for the past couple of months. Felt like every disagreement Hutch had, Josiah took it as a, you're just giving me a hard time right now. Wait, what is even the division on this show? I'm so confused. Because Pisco for a while was the guy who was like, we need to make friends with the left, and then Hutch fought a lot against that. I don't know what Josiah was even saying about that. I don't understand where these guys' minds are for everything. But I don't watch it a lot, so maybe it would be more obvious if I watched more. I just don't have time to consume all this stuff.
Actually, it's starting to turn around. More Americans believe that the Republican Party finally is more extreme than...
I don't think what you just read is true. Okay, never mind.
The Democratic Party. I'm trying to find this poll for you.
Do you still have a cough?
Yeah, bro.
It's like a 3-week cough, man. That's crazy.
It's brutal.
Did you go to a doctor?
I have. They gave me a steroid 2 days ago, and we're going to see where it goes. But
I would Minecraft myself if I had a cough for 3 weeks. That's crazy.
It's atrocious. As a guy who doesn't vape or smoke or do anything else and who talks, for a living, it's a pain in the ass. Yeah. But real quick, though.
First of all, that wouldn't surprise me, by the way. That makes sense. Like, usually when there's a party in power, the public approval moves away from the party in power. And so it just kind of makes sense that...
Yeah, I'm trying to find a poll for you. I have a bookmark somewhere.
I take you at your word. I don't know. Yeah.
No, I know, but I know you like to have that sort of stuff in your back pocket. But no, listen, as far as I'm concerned, like I haven't heard Pisco weigh in on this yet, but this is a big deal. This is a big fucking deal because all the professional legal commentators that I follow, like Mark Elias, somebody mentioned Mark Elias on Twitter when I was freaking out about this. Like, hey, don't worry, we've got Mark Elias in our back pocket. And it's like Mark Elias is the one freaking out about this. He did a video with...
Wait, freaking out about what? I missed what the topic is.
To have that sort of stuff in your back pocket. But no, listen,
I take you at your word. I don't know. Yeah.
No, I know.
Kind of makes sense that.
Yeah, I'm
when there's a party in power, the public approval moves away from the party in power, and so it just kind of makes sense that.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a poll for you. I have a bookmark.
I take you at your word. I don't know. Yeah.
No, I know, but I know you like to have that sort of stuff in your back pocket. But listen, as far as I'm concerned, like I haven't heard Pisco weigh in on this yet, but this is a big deal. This is a big fucking deal because all the professional legal commentators that I follow, like Mark Elias, somebody mentioned Mark Elias on Twitter when I was freaking out about this. Like, hey, don't worry, we've got Mark Elias in our back pocket. And it's like Mark Elias is the one freaking out about this. He did a video with Brian Tyler Cohen. He's like, it's probably not going to go our way. And the Supreme Court's probably going to gut the VRA. Now, not a guarantee that that's going to happen, but it seems more likely than not. So it's not just me being a chicken little here. It's actually the people who do not just political commentary, but professional.
As a consistent live and learn viewer, I don't think Hutch and Josiah or Josiah and Hutch have any beef. Pisco's chat hates Hutch, though, and clearly has a lot of influence over Pisco, who brings up weak Dems every pod now, and that's what causes friction. Oh, okay, I don't know anything about that. I do know when I was watching more and kind of like going through that Pisco's community was starting to get commie fucked. I don't know how true that is anymore or whatever, but...
legal commentary and who wage these legal battles.
No. I've been aware of like I know how bad this is. Yeah.
Well, my point is, like, and this is why I was just curious because I couldn't quite remember where you were on this, but we are 100% agreement that it's no longer optional. This court has to change, right? Like you recognize that not only can they kill a Democratic agenda, that's just a matter of fact, but they are now moving to potentially kill us from ever getting back into power. Like you agree that they are now the unavoidable obstacle in the long run, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
I just want to make sure we're on the same page there. So now that we agree on that, it's just simply a matter of what do we do about it with respect to campaign.
Yeah, it's a matter of strategy.
Yeah.
Did you? I don't know if you heard what I was saying, but like
I heard, and that's why I was jumping in while I was looking for this poll real quick. I'm not saying Democrats probably should.
It's okay. Somebody says, Destiny, I'm an avid Pisco Twitch chatter, and we do not hate Hutch. We do get the odd leftist in there talking shit, but overall very pro Hutch. That guy said that. There you go.
Start talking about it at some point, but my point is they should have been talking about it from the beginning. This kind of goes back to my long-standing frustration.
Like when you say beginning, what do you mean? Like when?
When they had power. This is something that, so when President Biden took office, he appointed a commission at the behest of a lot of people about Supreme Court reform. And it was one of the first commissions put out. They did their work, and he basically just said, we're going to disregard it. And then the Supreme Court came out with its immunity decision. And it finally got Biden to the point where even Biden, Mr. Institutionalist Biden, Mr. Just leave everything as it is Biden, was like, fuck, this is not what I expected. We need to have a constitutional amendment to get rid of presidential immunity, and we need to institute Supreme Court reform. We need to have term limits, things like that. So Biden was just wrong about Supreme Court reform. The progressives were right. He was dead wrong. And even he realized at the end, oh, fuck, this has gone much worse than I expected. Well, Democrats, well, no, he was wrong about this.
Well, wait.
My only defense for Biden here would be that, I'm trying to think. If we wanted Supreme Court reform, but we didn't have the ability to do it then, like if Supreme Court reform was an important thing, but we couldn't do it, I think Biden would be wrong to talk about it because Biden was getting legislation passed from both halves of Congress, right? He was bringing the Republicans in on legislation. If he would have started up on a we need to pack the courts talking point, no legislation would have gotten passed, except for maybe the initial, like the American Recovery Plan or whatever, whatever the COVID shit was. Other than that, he wouldn't have gotten anything because Republicans would have become obstinate on all legislation. So I don't think it would have been Biden's place to push this. But I mean, I absolutely understand Josiah's frustrations because what the fuck?
I want to push back because when Biden was talking about, I think you're referring to the fact that he came out against court packing when he ran in 2020. I think that came up on a debate stage.
I think he opposed, if I remember correctly, any sort of substantive court reform.
What I want to push back on is the idea that it is entirely possible that internally he felt like court packing was necessary, but he understood that running on it would be extremely risky. Because if he
why did he come out with an amendment? Why did he come out?
Well, he was in power at that point. That's the difference, right? Like,
but he was in power for 4 years.
Right, but I'm saying that like if you run, like if you're Joe Biden and you run on court packing in 2020 and then you lose, then what do you think Donald Trump and the Republicans are going to do in that spot?
I'm talking about him after he got that. I'm talking about when he got elected. When he got elected, he proposed a presidential commission to look into Supreme Court reform. And they came up with a bunch of options. The PDF is out there. It's really good, comprehensive about term limits, about supermajority requirements if they're going to strike down laws unconstitutional, about elected Supreme Court justices. They came up with a whole host of options that not only do many of our states, which of course are microcosms of the federal government because they have 3 branches of their own. It's like, hey, if states elect their Supreme Court justices, why can't we? Hey, if states, have term limits on their Supreme Court justices, why can't we? Hey, if there are mandatory retirement ages for their Supreme Court justices, why can't we? Et cetera and so forth. He was in power at the time, and for 3 years, he just kind of swept it under the rug. And then when he was in power, and it was after the Trump immunity decision, that was the game changer. And so he was like, we need a new constitutional amendment to get rid of, it was like the No Kings Amendment or something like that. We're going to get rid of presidential immunity. And we need to pass a law to expand, not expand the court, but to put term limits, I think. And there was like another provision as well in the binding code of conduct.
I remember.
The point is, Biden did that when he was in power. And I think it was before the election, if I remember correctly, because I think Kamala Harris ran on it as well, or suggested it as well. She didn't make it like a centerpiece point of her campaign. Right. But this is something that the Democrats should have been doing when they were in power. They shouldn't have waited until the last moments of the election to talk about it. I mean, I had Sheldon Whitehouse on after the election, and he said the same thing. He's like, we fucked up. The approval for the Supreme Court was incredibly low after the Dobbs decision, and then the scandal surrounding Clarence Thomas, his lack of disclosure, and then the Trump immunity decision. That was a triple threat. That was back to back to back. Their approval was at historic lows, and we were in power. We should have tried to invest political capital and saying, hey, listen, this court doesn't have your back. They're partisanly skewed towards the right. We try to do X, they strike it down. We try to do Y, they strike it down. All these things.
So do you mean they should have actually tried to take a swing at it when Biden was president, or tried to start laying the foundation?
Both.
Well, let me push back on the first point. That was just not going to happen, right? He was never going to be able to have the votes to pack the court when he was president.
I think that there's still an argument to be made that he should have tried anyway. I mean, did you agree? Did Biden take a swing at Build Back Better?
Well, that's a bit different because
but did he take a swing at it?
No, he did. But in that case, he knew that he was going to be able to negotiate something, and so he did get something from that negotiation. What could he have possibly gotten from that Congress? I'm just trying to. What plausible route do you think he had to packing the court during his presidency?
I'm not saying that he could have succeeded. I'm saying that much like with Build Back Better, he didn't get Build Back Better accomplished. He got a lot of it folded into the Inflation Reduction Act, but still, it wasn't like 80%. It wasn't even, I don't even know if it was 50%. It was just a substantial portion of the Build Back Better bill was folded into the IRA. So this idea that they only take votes on shit that they know is going to pass is just simply not true. Biden did have failed votes. It wasn't like a speech vote.
No, but that's like normal. That's like normal negotiation with Congress, though. I'm sure he knew he wasn't going to get his entire Build Back Better agenda, but you negotiate, and so that's what he did, and then he got a lot of those provisions codified into law. What are you negotiating with packing the court?
It's not just about packing the court. It's about binding code of conduct. It's about potential term limits. It's about all sorts of things.
All those things require getting rid of the filibuster, and that was
for it to pass.
Yeah, that was never on the table.
Well, Build Back Better was never on the table either.
No, but I don't. These are not the same thing. Like
I know they're not the same thing, but my point is this idea that we can't take a swing at it because we won't get what we wanted is absurd. By that logic, they shouldn't have done.
But if you take a swing at it and you know you're going to lose, then you're really risking serious escalation. When
Republicans, he knew he was going to lose on Build Back Better too.
No, but you're not listening. The Build Back Better, he took a swing on that because he knew he was going to be able to negotiate something and get let's say you know. Well, because that's how negotiations work. Like that's,
he was confident. This is where my frustration is, and this is why I want to have this conversation with you. I blame your attitude, the prevalence of your attitude on where we are right now with the court. Because by your logic, Hutch, when do we ever make a move on the court? When? You were against Democrats ever investing political capital and trying to make it a state. You always said it was a low salience issue. Stop talking about Josiah, low salience issue. It'd be great if we could do it. But it's a low salience issue.
So hold on, let me try to explain.
Wait. My point is, it is simply a fact. It's not a matter of opinion. If you disagree, you're objectively wrong. This court is an insurmountable obstacle to a Democratic agenda, and now it's poised to become an insurmountable obstacle to Democrats ever taking back the House. That is on balance the probability. The court has to be reformed. It must. It's no longer an option.
I'm with you on court reform. I've never not been with you on court reform.
I understand. You have been with court reform in principle. You just have no answers, or you're willing to take no risks. I do. Getting to it.
No, I do.
Okay,
so go ahead. Let me explain. So there's a difference between. Let me put it this way, okay? Like when it comes to court reform, you would agree that this is in a separate kind of special category than like legislation, right? So when we talk about legislation, it's very normal that this is just how Congress has always functioned. That there's gonna be some kind of negotiation with Congress, and then a lot of the provisions are gonna be radically changed. A lot of the provisions are gonna be scrapped, and then a lot of the provisions are gonna remain. That's just how every major kind of landmark legislation gets done. When it comes to court reform, that's something that when you take a swing at it, that's something that you need to. That's something that you need. There needs to be, how do I explain? How do I phrase this? Hold on.
While you're doing that, your chat, so many people in your chat are so fucking stupid. Susie Baca, this is how radicals lose the centrist. Okay, and they're talking about court packing. The Republicans packed the court, you stupid fucks.
Okay, wait.
They packed the court. They packed the court by stealing Obama's nominee, and then they packed the court again by changing their own fucking rule in 2020. They packed the court. And this idea that, oh my God, if we defy precedent, they already have a Republican supermajority. It's very likely that at the end of Trump's presidency, they will have a MAGA supermajority. Okay, right. We can't do anything because Republicans will then try to act in bad faith. They're going to act in bad faith anyway. Stupid fucks.
So this is a conversation.
You can't wield power aggressively because you can't defend yourself. Because what if your abuser hit you back harder?
Based. Also, listen, I still don't know where I stand on court packing, but I will make this commitment right now. Okay? If anybody retires from the Supreme Court, I will back any unhinged suggestion that Josiah makes regarding court packing. Trump has, how many people has Trump put on this court? Is it 3? It was Amy Coney Barrett. It was Kavanaugh. And it was it Gorsuch as well? Was it 2 or 3? It was 3. If Alito or Thomas retires, 4 Supreme Court picks from 1 president? Nah. Shit. Hell no. Pack that motherfucker up.
People are so fucking dumb, objectively wrong and stupid.
All right. So you're very angry. I get it. Okay, but sometimes I feel like we don't make our best decisions when we're angry. The point that I'm trying to make when it comes to court reform and the potentiality of actually like expanding the Supreme Court, adding Supreme Court justices. Would you agree that that's one thing, that's one goal that Democrats need to, that the moment that they go for that,
I'm obviously not talking about all of Hutch's chat. I just want to put that out there, just the stupid ones.
The moment that they go for that, they need to pick their spot for doing something like that. Because if you swing too early, in the case of Biden should have, gone around the country and talked about the importance of expanding the Supreme Court. The risk of that is so substantial because look what happened. Biden is inaugurated 4 years later. Republicans have another trifecta. And what is to stop them in that moment from saying, well, we already know what they're going to do the next time they get power. So we're just going to pack the court with 20 Supreme Court justices.
So at this point, I think I might have even used this argument before. I'm almost positive I have. And I would agree with this argument before. At this point, I would never use this argument again. Republicans will do whatever they want. The idea that they're waiting for the Democrats to do something first and then they're going to do no. If they wanted to pack the court, they would just pack the court. They're not going to wait for the Democrats to whatever
who will let us, basically gerrymander our districts.
They have a 6-3 conservative supermajority. Why would they do that? And even if they did do that, how would it fundamentally change anything?
You're just dismissing the possibility that they would add like 6 more justices if they knew that Democrats were going to do that the next time they're in.
Why? Why would they add? They already don't care about the courts, and they already have a Congress that has given all of its power up to the executive. Well, they don't. Why the fuck would they even? Trump's probably too retarded to even know what the fuck the Supreme Court does. He just doesn't care. If Trump wanted to pack the court right now, the counter question for Josiah that he should say is, oh, okay, so if they wanted to pack the court right now, who in Republican leadership is going to say we shouldn't do that? Is Mike Johnson going to come out and say, no, Trump, that's not okay? Is, who's the Senate guy, Thune? Is he going to come out and be like, no, Trump, we shouldn't pack the court? Is it going to be Bondi or anybody else? Like,
power?
Why would they do that when they already have a supermajority? It's not like it's a 50-50.
Why would they do that? What do you mean? Hold on. No, what you're
court.
saying makes no sense. Why would they do that? Why do you think they would do that?
Hutch, what have they done?
Wait, I want you to answer that question. I want you to answer that. No. Steel man my argument. Why would they add 6 more justices?
I don't think there's a good steel man for your argument
because stop.
No,
wait,
Hutch.
He has not.
How would it fundamentally? Is there a constitutional?
The Supreme Court they have not let Trump do everything he wants to do. You understand that, right? Like they have actually blocked him several times. They would add more justices.
I don't know about several times. Certainly not this term. I think the Kilmar-Abrego-Garcia won, and I think they've temporarily said that Lisa Cook can remain on the Federal Reserve. But other than that, anytime this has gotten to the Supreme Court via the shadow docket, no, he's on a fucking winning streak.
But if you add 10 more, Trump appointees to the Supreme Court.
So yes, you're right. It would go from 95% victory rate to like 100% victory rate. But what's your point about what does that have to do about future packing of the court? What's your point?
Because they could pack the court so they could stack it with what's to stop them from adding 20 conservative justices that were hand selected by the Heritage
Could
Foundation?
that somehow prevent us from adding 40 the next time we're in power?
But here's what I'm saying. If you think that gerrymandering is bad right now, when you have like a 20-seat majority, you can effectively like block Democrats from ever getting power ever again.
Hutch, let me ask you something. Let's use a different example. Let's use a different example. Have Democrats talked about abolishing the filibuster?
Some Democrats have, but it hasn't been like a plank of the party.
But has that been something that's been talked about, threatened about carve-outs for the filibuster, about weakening the filibuster, either abolishing it wholesale or making more exceptions for the filibuster?
Not at the leadership level.
No, I'm pretty sure Biden also wanted nuclear carve-outs for the filibuster for Kirsten and Sinema. They just refused to go along with it.
These were pretty limp threats. I mean, there was never really any threat.
Has the leadership of the Democratic Party called for making exceptions to the filibuster to pass through their agenda? Even Biden did it. Do you agree with that?
I take your word on that one. If Biden said for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, I think he did it for that, but nothing else.
Yes.
But but there was never any threat of that.
So here's my point. Why have Republicans not totally abolished the filibuster yet?
Because both parties, both parties in the Senate, the filibuster still has broad support.
I have a different interpretation. You tell me if you think this is plausible. I think it's because for the most part, this was also the case in Trump term 1. I think it's because for the most part, they're able to get their agenda through either with the filibuster or by making little piecemeal carve-outs along the way. They fucked with the filibuster in this term to get, I think it was the Big Beautiful Bill passed, if I remember correctly, that there was a provision of the Big Beautiful Bill that was getting caught up in the filibuster, and so they changed the rules. But they haven't abolished it wholesale. My thought process is, I'm not convinced that if Democrats start campaigning on expanding the court, that Republicans will expand the court, because I think, just as they do with the filibuster, their thought process is, well, it's already working to our advantage anyway. The only thing we have to do is just win the election and keep them out of power. If they decide to pack the court, again, it'd go from a 6-3 conservative supermajority to a 23-seat supermajority, then they might get more of their agenda accomplished, but it wouldn't prevent Democrats from packing the court if and when they got back into power.
It would just permanently lock Democrats out of power, is my point.
How so?
Because they would like, if you imagine a court that was like 20 Donald Trump Supreme Court justices, they would allow the most extreme kind of like gerrymandering that you could possibly imagine. Like they would implement they would get rid of the filibuster as well. By the way, they would also pass like whatever legislation they can get with a simple majority. And so, they can do that. They can do that anytime. No, but they would 100%. But like if Democrats right now started, if it was like a party-wide strategy, Schumer and Pelosi and Jeffries and all the major, like, we are going to get rid of the filibuster, and they would get rid of it immediately right now. And then it's like, okay, well, are we repealing and replacing Obamacare at this point? Like, are we, doing a federal abortion ban? Like, the dam would open immediately. And right now, the Democrats, I think, are at especially if this VRA decision comes from the Supreme Court and it makes it like that much more difficult for Democrats to take power. It's like, you have to I think there's something to be said about just being smart about when you take your shot at something. And like right now, Democrats just have no leverage to like make these kinds of threats. And the threat of Republicans getting ahead of it and then putting in even more institutional hurdles for the Democratic Party that will make their job of taking power eventually that much more difficult. I just feel like we're in no position to do that right now.
Why did Biden and Kamala even mention it? I don't think they made it nearly as much of a priority. But why did they endorse Supreme Court reform while Biden was in office in his final year and before the election? Why did both of them do that?
Well, they endorsed Supreme Court reforms, but they didn't endorse packing the court.
So that's the red line. You're saying when it comes to packing the court, that's the one the others, term limits, binding codes of conduct, things of that nature, that's something we can afford to take a shot at while we're in power during the campaign. It's literally expanding the court.
Yeah, because once you start expanding the court, that's Pandora's box just burst wide open.
So you don't support expanding the court?
No, I do in principle, but I think the difference between you and me is I think you need to be very strategic about like when you make that push. Because when you make the push, better be the time that you actually get it done. You can't make that push and then fail, because the Republicans will do it 1,000%. The second they get back in power. You understand what I'm saying? Like, that needs to be a shot that you don't miss. You cannot miss that shot.
even if you succeed, even if you succeed, why wouldn't they do it when they get back in power?
Well, they probably will. That's the thing. It's going to be a back and forth thing at that point, you know. Like, and then
I just want to be. I want to double check on this. So your hesitation is not that they will do it too. You think they'll do it first.
It would have to be. You would have to pass some kind of. I don't know if this would require a constitutional amendment, but you would have to package in reforms with expanding the court. And so you would have to package in like the people vote on Supreme Court justices instead of them being appointed and then confirmed by the Senate. You would have to. Some
of these reforms might require. Well, I guess it really depends on how the Supreme Court interprets it, right? The Supreme Court might say, yeah, it's not unconstitutional. You can pass this through federal statute. Others might say, no, you need a constitutional amendment to modify Section 3 of the Constitution. Yeah. I don't know, but my point is, I've come to terms with, I've accepted that any sort of reform we make to the court, the Republicans will either try to undo or to escalate on their side. I've accepted that if we expand the Supreme Court, if and when they get back into power, they are almost certainly going to do the same. But I currently view the president as untenable to begin with, because it's not like we have a balanced court. It's not like we're taking things that's balanced more or less and, making a risky gamble to unbalance it only for it to whipsaw back even more extreme. It's already tilted in their favor pretty massively. And again,
I just feel like this reminds me of so many conversations I have with like Cinemarxism, by the way. Like is a conversation I had like 2 months ago about he was making the argument that AOC and Bernie should just do a clean break from the party because things are already maximally bad. And so, if they did a clean break and then that led to more Republican wins, well, what difference does it make? Because things are already as bad as they're going to get right now, which I just found to be so unbelievably myopic, like a complete lack of imagination. Like you really can't imagine things getting worse. I think you're doing kind of the same thing right now. Like you really can't imagine things getting worse with like 6 more Supreme Court justices that are conservatives. Like you really can't. I just
don't know. I suppose I can imagine again going from. And again, I don't know what the success rate is at the moment. I haven't looked it up, but all I know is he's on a winning streak so far with the Supreme Court. Even when he was out of power with the immunity decision, but since he's been back in power, he's been on a winning streak.
What about after the election in 2020? Like the Supreme Court definitely checked Donald Trump when it came to his challenges to the legitimacy of the election.
Yes, I agree. But that was the court then. No, that was because he lost factually every single venue.
What are you talking about?
No, I'm talking about in terms of its attitude and posture.
Wait, I actually hate that he let him get away on that. Hold on.
And I think that the court now.
No, that's the same court now. What are you talking about?
Do you think that they're checking? No, yes, I agree. But that was the court then. That was the court then. I think that the court now.
No, that's the same court now.
Even when he was out of power with the immunity decision, but since he's been back in power, he's been on a winning streak.
What about after the election in 2020? Like the Supreme Court definitely checked Donald Trump when it came to his challenges to the legitimacy of the election.
They barely checked it, but what they really protected was like that Texas didn't have standing to challenge, but that was like a crazy case. Texas wanted to fight over how other states ran their elections, but they did give him a really important provision related to his behavior in 2020, which is that they changed the fucking Constitution to let the fucking insurrectionist run in the next election. They deleted part of the 14th Amendment to give Trump a free pass to run again. That was a huge cover for what happened in 2020. Josiah shouldn't have let him get away with that one. That was huge cover.
What if you have?
Do you think that they're checking? No, yes, I agree. But that was the court then. That was the court then. I think that the court now.
No, that's the same court now. What are you talking about?
No, I'm talking about in terms of its attitude and posture. I don't think the Supreme Court in 2025 is the same court as it was in 2020.
You're saying you think the same court would, like, if Donald Trump were to challenge 2028, you think they would just go along with it?
I don't know about that specific apples to apples comparison, but my point is, like,
that's a pretty big deal, right? Like,
I do agree that that's a big deal, but my point is,
that's the risk I'm talking about. That's the risk I'm talking about. You're saying just take the swing and fuck it. They're just going to add Supreme Court justices, whatever. Well, what if they add so many justices that are so deranged that they literally steal the election in 2028?
I'm just trying to figure out what you think the alternative is.
Wait, hold on. That's a huge risk, right?
Here's my point.
Wait,
stop. No. Here's my point. You asked me a question. Your way has gotten us here. We're on the cusp of losing, very likely.
I don't even know what that means.
We're taking no risks with the Supreme Court by thinking the Supreme Court is this fucking sacrosanct institution that if we look at it the wrong way, it's going to cause, this massive political catastrophe for us. We're already on the cusp of political catastrophe because so many people, you included, think that it's like you're playing with fucking dynamite.
You are.
Maybe we need to start taking risks, bro.
But you are playing with dynamite if you do this. You say that my way led us here, but I think that's a really flawed way of looking at it, because I think your way very plausibly could have led to 10 more conservatives on the Supreme Court.
You know what? It's possible.
Which would be worse.
But I do know in this timeline where Democrats are like, if it's fucked, the Supreme Court, let's just bitch about it. That's all we do. Let's just bitch about it.
No, you have to be smart. Is what I'm saying. You have to be smart, is what I'm saying. You can set this as a goal.
What is the Hutch smart approach? Because again, I'm gonna push back on this. We've talked about this on Live and Learn exhaustively, and you push back every time. Your excuse is it's a low salience issue, and I'm like, okay, Hutch, well, how about we try to make it a high salience issue? And you're like, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to invest political capital.
No, but you just
so you do. So you do believe Democrats should be talking about this.
What I
said was they should be trying to make this a high salience issue, but you have to be very fucking shrewd about it.
I'm all for shrewdness. The baton is yours. You walk me through the shrewdness.
I'm not. I don't have a Machiavellian mind. Like, I don't know if I can give you the sort of strategy that you're looking for.
Just give me broad strokes, because I don't know how you do it.
You would have to have a mandate from the public. That's what it comes down to. You would have to have a situation where, like 60, 70, 75% of the public would agree to something like that. Like you would have to have that much political cover. If you do it right now, when the
Democrats, can I ask you something that maybe is the heart of the confusion?
Right
what do you mean
now,
by high salience versus low salience?
As in something
maybe I'm confused.
As in, if I say something is high salience to voters, it's something that motivates them to vote. It's like one of the things that they, that motivates them to actually engage in electoral politics.
So you're not just talking about in terms of its priority. You're talking about high salience in terms of where it ranks on the priority, and also separately how much support the issue has, regardless of where it is on the priority.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay. Do you think that Democrats are capable of moving the needle on either of those things, or just one, or neither? Both, one, neither?
Either of what things?
Can Democrats see, when I took it to mean all this time that when you meant high salience, it wasn't just a matter of how much of a priority it was as in terms of a motivator to vote, but in terms of its lack of you felt that it was insufficiently supported. Not just that it wasn't a high priority, but that there wasn't enough in terms of the majority to support court reform.
Yeah.
That was what I took your objections to be, that it was two-pronged. It wasn't just a matter of the priority. It was you felt it was insufficiently supported. My point was always that Democrats could invest political capital, or try to invest political capital, in increasing both of these things. Try to help encourage popular support for these reforms.
Yeah,
and try to make it a higher priority.
Yeah, I just don't know if I don't know if it can come from leadership. So like if you have Democratic officials that are out there making the case and like laying the foundation, like the Pete Buttigieg, like incredible surrogate he is, like if you had people out there like making that case, then that's fine. But if it's coming from like Obama, and if it's coming from like Jeffries and Schumer and like the head of the DNC, that in this moment to do that right now is insanely risky, given the fact that the Republicans are in power right now, and they have the power right now to get rid of the filibuster and to pass legislation to expand the court. They can do that tomorrow, and they will 1000% do that if all of a sudden Democratic Party leadership comes out tomorrow in an organized salvo across all media channels trying to like whip support for this. And so I don't think that is an option that we have right now. To me, it's unacceptable that we would push Republicans to do that. I think that would be catastrophic. Like as bad as things are right now, I think it would be so much worse if they, number one, just got...
I just like, when Republicans want to do something, they'll just say that like the Democrats have already done it. Like that, like what Josiah should really just ask Hutch is there anything that the Republicans want to do right now that they're not doing? What do they want to do right now that they're not doing because they're waiting for the Democrats to do it first? Like what are we waiting? What are the Republicans waiting for? What do we think they're waiting for?
Rid of the filibuster in general, because once they get rid of the filibuster to pack the court, then now they can just the filibuster's gone. They're just going to use that to pass legislation. And do they get rid of the ACA? Do they do an abortion ban? Do they like ban porn or whatever? Like all kinds of crazy Project 2025 shit that they have the majorities that they could do it with right now.
But they're doing all those things, right? They've already trimmed back Medicaid for attacking the ACA. They've already had 7 states now have basically made it so you need to upload pictures of the underside of your fucking taint in order to jerk off to fucking Pornhub shit. Republicans are already active in all of these areas.
Crazy Project 2025 shit that they have the majorities that they could do.
They've got like, how much of Project 2025 have they done? Like half of it at this point? Like
do it with right now. Like that's to me is a completely unacceptable risk that I just don't think that you're entertaining. You call it like fecklessness, you call it like a lack of fight, a lack of teeth, but I think your strategy is just like you're just pure aggression. I don't think you're thinking about like the risk.
Okay, I don't know if these guys will identify what's happening, but this is the difference I think between conservatives. This is like my new insight over the past 6 months, right? We've been building towards this. Okay, this is the difference I think between conservatives and Democrats. Okay, and I fell into this trap a lot. I might even still do it without even thinking about it. Conservatives will say, I want to do X, okay? A conservative will say, I want to go to Chuck E. Cheese's, okay? But the car is almost out of gas. And then liberals will say, I want to go to Chuck E. Cheese's. And conservatives will look at the car, they'll see how much gas they have, and they'll say, we need to go to the gas station first so that we can go to Chuck E. Cheese's. And liberals will look at the car and they'll say, we don't have enough gas in the tank. We can't go to Chuck E. Cheese's. We'll have to wait until there's gas in the future. And I think that's the difference. Josiah hinted at this earlier by criticizing Hutch when Hutch was saying there's not enough political salience in, it wasn't like politically realistic enough to push for Supreme Court reforms. And then Josiah was like, well, why don't we make it politically salient? And that's what conservatives are so good at doing. That's what they're so good at doing, is if a thing is not possible, what they do is they try to make it possible. Whereas liberals sometimes are too constrained by what might be politically possible instead of working to make something politically possible, Conservatives are constantly expanding the boundaries and the borders of their imagination. Which is very funny because all at the same time, conservatives have brainwashed the world, or at least all the retarded tech bros, into thinking that it's the opposite. I made that tweet a while ago, and it was a good tweet because it was very true. How many times have you seen that stupid fucking comic where people are saying, where people are doing that thing where they're like, oh, liberals are, hold on. Liberal, conservative, moved to the left comic. What am I thinking of? This stupid fucking... Everything is lagging. Oh my God, the left has gotten so far to the left. Guys, what's happened? Oh my God. Oh, the left has gotten so far, and now I'm a bigot, and I haven't changed at all. I used to be center left. Right? This is the meme. It gets posted a million times, and it's like, can we think for like... Can we think for 2 seconds? When we say that the left has ran further left and the right is the same, who's changed more? We went from, in 92, from Bill Clinton to Biden, okay? We went from Clinton, who was like a cosmopolitan fucking liberal, to Obama, who was like a slightly progressive cosmopolitan liberal, to Biden, who was literally Obama's vice president. That's the last 30 years of the Democratic Party. The right has gone from Bush Sr., who was like a Reagan era-ish, like fucking war hawk, corporate neocon, to Bush Jr., who was his kid, who's also a massive fucking neocon, you know, big corporate supporter, expands the size of the Department of Education, doubles it, no child left behind, to Donald Trump, who is a populist xenophobe, who dismantled the entire Department of Education, massively, simultaneously like isolationist, while also being a fucking war. Like, what is the bigger change? From Clinton to Biden, or from Bush Sr. to Donald Trump? How the fuck did we ever let conservatives play this game of, oh my God, look at how much has changed. Look how far you like, I'm sorry, who is this right here? This is Bill Clinton, and this is Joe Biden? Meanwhile, this is Bush Sr., Bush Jr., and Donald Trump? Are you fucking crazy? It's just I don't know how they won. I don't know how they gaslit everybody on this. It's crazy.
I think you just feel this urgency and this anger and this rage, and you want to just fucking once into the breach, you know, you just want to charge out of your trench and just like run right at them, right?
Yeah, I appreciate the candor on that. I think that, but I think what you've identified is that unless that the salience or the approval just organically on its own magically arrives at a number you're comfortable with, which seems to be a majority, then
why would you?
Just don't do anything.
But if you're looking at polls, right? If you're looking at a poll that says that you know, only like 30% of the country supports Democrats packing the court, that's a tough issue, right?
Yeah, the way I look at it is political capital. Take a long time you accrue political capital to invest. And I think that this is an incredibly important issue, whether the public realizes it or not, an existential one to this party, that Democratic leaders need to lead and to try to shape public opinion and to rally the base and make a persuasive case for why this court needs to be reformed and why it needs to be expanded. That's where we disagree. That's the heart of the frustration, which is, I know in theory, like if you had your druthers, you would also want the court expanded. You are unprepared to do anything about it. And you think that I'm willing to give everything. No, it is. It is because, well, I'll ask you again, what is it that Democrats can do? Because
I'll answer it again. I already answered the question though.
Okay, what is it?
You would need to lay the foundation and somehow help to bring about a climate where you would have a mandate to do that. So you would have to sway public opinion. You told me earlier that we would need to wait for a mandate to do it. Now you're saying we can create the mandate. You're giving us permission to do that. No, I never said that Democrats need to have a completely passive role when it comes to a mandate forming, but you would have to do it really intelligently. And that I think necessarily includes having it not come from leadership. Like we can't be signaling to Republicans right now that we're just going to full-throatedly pursue this thing the next time we have power. Like that cannot come from leadership right now, because that will cause the Republicans to just preemptively do stuff right now while they have power.
Can I ask you something? I think you said this earlier while I was bouncing around and trying to find this poll for you before I jumped in. Didn't you say that, what was the polling on gerrymandering in California? What was it? Not now, but what was it?
Well, California, like the voters here have always been, we've always been in favor of like more like fair kind of redistricting stuff. It was, I don't know what the polls were, but they were.
Would you expect that at one point it probably
shifted?
Yeah, so probably it didn't have popular support until recently.
Right, but the California electorate is like 2/3 Democratic Party, and once you get the Democratic Party like leadership getting out there and like whipping support, I think it had a majority support, but I think the support went way up after they went out and did a messaging thing. I understand where you're going with this, but what is what is the risk in California that would be analogous to the kind of risk that at the federal level.
I don't know about a specific risk to California. I think the risk which would ultimately affect California is if you don't gerrymander, as Newsom is making the case, then you're basically just stepping aside and allowing Republicans to run roughshod as they redistrict and gerrymander Democrats out of control.
Well, for the situation to be analogous, it would have to be a Republican administration in the governor's mansion in California, with the Democrats, pushing an issue.
Here's the issue with you and Josiah's argument. Public opinion hasn't yet gotten over the brainwashing of TDS yet. They are progressively getting there, but if we pull the trigger too early, we would just lose the narrative war yet again. I disagree. I think you go out, but you need strong people to do this, because you need people that can go out and endure a bunch of you retards constantly second guessing them, and other liberal retards, constantly shitting on them, saying, oh, this is bad. Oh, you're being too mean. Oh, and you just got to go out there and you got to fucking do it. And eventually the thing will prove itself, right? There was a political leader in semi-recent history that did basically this thing in the Western world. Does anybody know who I'm talking about? They had an idea, they took it, and basically everybody was against them initially. Like, oh, this is not a great idea. I don't think this works. Like, even their own party was shitting on them a ton, right? Good job. Yes, it was Donald Trump. I don't think people remember because everybody's mind wiped. Everybody forgets like what happened every couple years. Donald Trump was hated by everyone. Everybody hated Donald Trump, especially the Republicans fucking hated Donald Trump. Oh my God, they hated Donald Trump. But you know what? He believed in his thing. Now, I don't think that Donald Trump had some keen political insight. He's just a retard who happened to stumble into a group of people that didn't realize how retarded they were. But, he was like, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to keep doing the same shit over and over again. And it worked because, he believed in it, and it was a good strategy, even if he didn't know why. And then here we are with Donald Trump. Glorious leader. Do you think the Dems can make a cult leader like Trump? I'm not saying we need a cult leader. I'm just saying you have to find a good strategy. And then if you really do think it's a good strategy, you need to believe in it, and you need to go out and you need to fight for it. Understanding that in the beginning, it will be unpopular, that people are going to say it's a bad idea, that people are going to say, you're hurting our electoral chances. It's not good. The electorate's not ready. People are going to be making, claims like this. Doesn't matter. You just go out and you fight on it. And if it truly is a good strategy, then it'll reveal itself in some number of months. Fight and fight hard.
That's like 30% approval, but it's just not analogous. There's just not.
That's why I was curious what the polling was prior to Newsom making this an issue.
I think they've been able to boost support by like 10 or 15 points or something like that. But again, this is just not the situation. I don't think you can say, well, see, the thing is happening in California. Let's just do that at the federal level. It's just a totally different dynamic at the federal level. Like, Democrats are out of power right now. The party itself is being perceived as like weak and ineffective. It's not popular right now. And so I don't know, like, I think there's a bit of a situation right now where I don't want to live in this reality. I wish this wasn't the case, but I kind of suspect that in order for kind of like big change to occur in this country, there might have to be a touching of the stove kind of moment. Like, it might need to be the case that Donald Trump and the Republican Party breaks so much shit in this country that it, radically transforms the electorate. Like,
But the reason why stoves are such an insanely good way to learn is because you have a negative stimulus. You have a punishment that's applied to somebody instantaneously when they do the bad thing. It is impossible to not learn a lesson when you touch a hot stove. But right now, who the fuck knows what's causing anything, right? There's not even a guarantee that we're going to come out of this shutdown with people feeling like it was the Republicans' fault, right? The country is still, like, us massively winning is like 55% in the polls. That's like a massive win for us. That's what our massive wins are, is 55%. Those are the huge wins that we're looking at, 55%, So the idea that Americans are going to see things break and even think it's, benefiting them or hurting them, or that it's good or bad, or that it comes from Republicans, we don't even know.
Donald Trump, for example, like, truly like broke the economy. 100% tariffs on China is fucking insane. The consequences of that is going to be that it's going to exceed any kind of economic headwinds that have emerged so far. These 100%, they're our third largest trading partner. China is huge. We do so much trade with them, and we're going to do 100% tariffs starting November 1st. That will be felt in a very painfully all over the country. So, like, if he plunges us into like a recession, a true recession, and we see unemployment jump up to like 10, 11%, and like, if the situation is that bad, then you have, in that moment, then you can pounce. Then you can for sure pounce and be like, we need to really seriously talk about like court reform and packing the court or whatever.
I'm not sure that there would necessarily be a relationship between those two things, because it's entirely possible that Trump could have, historic low approval and, Supreme Court reform still not be a salient issue or one with majority support. Again, I think what it comes down to is, and again, I appreciate you trying to answer, and I understand you're unpersuaded by me. I'm still unpersuaded by you. I'm not sure what the smart strategy is in a way that you would not take issue with it, because it seems like you're saying the Democrats shouldn't even talk about it, but that they should in a clever way. I don't know.
Just not leadership. It can't be coming from leadership. You can't be telling people we're going to do this thing when we get power. It has to come from like surrogates.
And why can't it come from leadership?
Hold on. You know the answer to this question.
No, I don't.
I already told you. Like, if it comes from leadership, if leadership is saying this is the direction our party is going, we are going to pursue these reforms once we get power, then the Republican Party will get rid of the filibuster and just add 10 more Supreme Court justices right now.
So you think that the Republicans would hold their powder dry on preemptively packing the court further still, only in as long as the Democratic leadership doesn't weigh in on this?
Finally, thank you. Josiah got there. Do you really think that's what they're waiting for? Seriously? That's not. If they're not doing it, it's because they just don't have the mind for it, or they're not thinking about it. Like, the only argument here, the only salient argument that Hutch can make here is like, well, maybe they're so fucking retarded, they just haven't thought of it, and if we start talking about it, they'll think about it. That's the only real argument you can make. But in terms of them trying to wait for strategy or whatever, they don't give a fuck. Trump has done, again, and I don't even necessarily blame Hutch for being mind-fucked here, but we've all gotten mind-fucked into just thinking about how insane the current administration is. Like, Hutch is like a person who is shivering in their closet upstairs because they heard that somebody broke into the shed in the back, and they're like, maybe we should just, like, if we don't make any noise, we don't do anything crazy in here, they'll just steal some shit from the shed and they'll leave, right? Which is, like, probably true, maybe call 911, you're fine, right? If that was the case, but that's not the case. Where we're at right now is we're a family of 4 in the basement, and the murderer has raped and killed 2 of our family members, and then he's looking at us next, and we're like, well, maybe if we just don't say anything, maybe he'll get bored and leave. That's where we're at right now. And if you don't recognize that we're in the second situation and not the first situation, then I feel like it's hard to see what are the actual actions you're supposed to take. There are so many individual things right now that Trump has done that are like the Comey, Bolton, James. This is actual political persecution that is coming after Trump literally truthed out, we need to go after our political enemies. And he even named the prosecutor that he was going to assign to do it, as he's directing the attorney general to politically prosecute people. And he gave the reason. Every part of that truth has it. These are our political opponents. We need to go after them because they make us look bad and they hurt my reputation. And if nobody's going to do it, here's an attorney insurance lawyer who will get the job done. And Pam, I need you to do this right now. All of it is there. And now it's all happened. Wait, I don't know what we're waiting for.
Yeah. I don't know why that would be the case.
Hutch is so ignorant as to how far. I don't think Hutch is ignorant. Don't shit on Hutch. I'm not trying to shit on Hutch. I'm just saying, because I understand Hutch's mind, especially because people like me and him are insulated from a lot of what's going on socially. But like, it's really crazy. Okay.
As long as the Democratic leadership doesn't weigh in on this.
Yeah.
I don't know why that would be the case. That seems to, because I feel like the GOP is also the same sort of bad faith shitheads to be like, it doesn't really matter that Hakeem Jeffries hasn't weighed in on this, or Chuck Schumer. AOC's talking about this, and Bernie Sanders is talking about this, and actually more of them now.
Well, no, they already do that. I mean, they already do that. They already do that now. They go on Fox and they're like, they're obviously talking about packing the court. But do you see any indication that the Republican Party right now is going to like pack the court? Like get rid of
but I'm not necessarily convinced that they would. I don't think that Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are the secret sauce that if they opine about something, then that's the green light for the Republicans.
Well, once it comes from leadership, that's a totally. If it comes from leadership, then 1,000% that they're going to pursue that when they have power.
But again, respectfully, like,
think about what you're saying. Have Republicans talked about packing the court? No. Republicans have quoted Andrew Jackson and said that they want to go above the court, that they want to defy the court. It's even worse. They haven't talked about packing the court because in their mind, they don't give a fuck about the court. That's the whole point. Why would they pack the court when they don't even give a fuck? It's like, why haven't they gone after the filibuster? Because Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about passing bills or legislation. He doesn't care about Congress. If he passes the budget, oh, that's cool. If he doesn't, oh, fuck it. I'll just cut the government then. Who the fuck cares, right? Of course they don't care about rigging these institutions because they don't even use them. They don't believe in them.
The previous leadership of the Democratic Party under Joe Biden, proposed a carve out for the filibuster to pass the Voting Rights Act, and he proposed pretty aggressive reforms to the Supreme Court, not necessarily expansion. And
the expansion is like that's the nuclear option, right?
Well, but Republicans didn't immediately run with it on the next. I don't think it's fair to say, given how bad faith these people are, and they'll say one thing and then they'll pick it up when it's convenient. I don't think that the Republicans are committed to principle of a 9-seat Supreme Court or of a filibuster. And I don't think that they need an excuse necessarily from Democrats to do what they feel they need to do. I think that, let me put it like this. When when Republicans do a thing, a bad thing, or they change norm, do they just simply defer to what they feel the leadership of the Democratic Party has said, or will they point to Bernie Sanders and AOC and others? Because I've seen examples of where.
Thing, what do you mean a bad thing?
When they change a law or an institution or a norm, or a rule change or whatever, when they make some sort of procedural alteration to benefit themselves, do they just point to leadership, or do they also just point to really anything that they find convenient?
No, of course they frequently point to fringe Democrats to try to paint the whole party as extremists.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the way.
This is fuck. I wish people would understand this more. What was Josiah's position on my refusing to disavow violence first thing? Like, they're not. You guys get so caught up. The Democrats get so caught up in like, well, guys, if we do this, we're just giving them an excuse. We don't want them to use us as an example of our extremism. Like, we don't want to give them any ammunition, bro. These guys are shooting chi bullets or whatever, or like these guys are shooting energy rounds. They don't need. They'll always find something, or they'll just make it up. It doesn't matter. You're playing their game. You're getting mind fucked on this. Stop.
I look at it. I just genuinely don't believe that that they're just waiting until Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer says it as a thing, and then that's the moment that they green light. I think that for the Republicans, it genuinely is just a case by case basis, and for them, it's a matter of how much do we need to do this? What is the risk of this potentially blowing back on us?
Right now, there's no indication that they're going to pack the court. Like, there's none. Like, there's zero indication they're going to pack the court.
Yes, but that indication has nothing to do with the Democratic action. Josiah's right. Republicans do the analysis of, can we get away with it? That's it. They don't give a fuck if the Dems have done it first or not. They're just saying, can we get away with it? The public seems like maybe this way. Fuck it, let's go. That's it.
What I'm saying is I'm not convinced that, basically everybody but Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries could talk about.
Also, Republicans don't need to pack the court. They already own the Supreme Court too. It's not, like, what would putting 6 more justices on there even do for them? They already have a 6-3 court. Trump is immune from crimes. Trump enjoys more criminal immunity than the King of England did. What would they even need to pack the court for? Of course they're not going to be talking about this.
It, and the GOP would be okay with that. Like, I don't know. I don't think that they would need, I guess what I'm saying is I don't think that they would need Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, who are the 2 federal Democratic leaders, to weigh in on this before they decide to change a norm, change a rule, change a law, change procedure to do something which benefits. I think they look at it as a case by case basis. And so I guess what I'm saying to you is if they do it your way, you're allowing Democrats to say, okay, the rank and file can talk about it more. And as long as leadership doesn't weigh in, that's the way to play it. But what if Republicans go, well, fuck, we see the writing on the wall. More and more Democrats are talking about it. Sure, it's not Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer. We might as well preemptively pack the court and advance further still. I guess what I'm saying is, doesn't your way also carry a lot of risk?
Well, everything's risky right now. But like, why don't we let me try to get at this a different way. Like,
here's a good question. This would be a good question. What have the Democrats led on? Like, what's one example of a thing where the Dems came out first and they did it? And it was like, ooh, that was scary. Like, we're always playing the game where we're following what the Republicans are doing. We're in the wake of their disaster constantly. And it's like Biden cucked himself, and Josiah knows this because he was on this argument harder than me. Biden cucked himself out so hard to Merrick Garland. Where did that get us? People still hate the Supreme Court. They still think we did lawfare against Trump. Trump is still politically prosecuting all of his opponents more than any president in probably all of fucking U.S. history. Like, what did that get us? So we even intentionally cuck ourselves out. The Republicans don't look at the Dems and go, well, since they did that, we'll chill, because they know that they can always take the first step. That's where the tit for tat comes in. That we need to take a first step because they have to have. And by the way, Republicans know this. Roll the Megyn Kelly clip. Republicans know this. What I'm saying is not even controversial, although Republicans will gaslight you and say that it is when they're talking about me. But then when they're talking amongst their own, this is exactly what they tell themselves. This is exactly how they know the game works.
The occupation.
Shut up.
Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show.
No one cares, and you're disgusting.
Extraordinary.
Remember, my take was disgusting and horrible for a YouTuber to have, saying that they should lead because if they don't lead, they're gonna, they'll just make us capitulate and we'll get nothing.
Certainly, Megyn
But
Kelly.
this is a fact that the Dems fight. Like, you can't argue this fact.
You can say they.
Who was indicted by a Republican president that was running for president on the other side?
It wouldn't be necessarily the specific, a perfectly matching indictment. But the they started first could be lawfare, could be crazy. You talked about crazy people. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not the most sane member of Congress. It's not hard to point and look at Republicans and see some crazy out there. And so they get as hepped up, right? They're ready to then go to war next time they win. So every presidential election is this momentous, this side's going to go to war against this side. I don't see how that's ever going to lead to any kind of de-escalation in a way that's favorable to those of us who don't have a we necessarily.
So he's giving the cuck centrist take. I don't know what this podcast is if they're concerned about the fifth column. I don't know. But he's giving like the cuck centrist take, right? That like, oh yeah, this is what they would be saying to me, right? And my answer is no. Fuck this bullshit. If the other side doesn't think we're going to respond, then they're going to be unhinged. So we need to do some shit to let them know that we got it in us, that we got that dog in us. But when I say that, these guys and then the Piers Morgans and all the liberals even like scream at me like, oh, you can't say that. Okay. But how does how did the Republicans respond to that claim, right?
This side
isn't everybody just going to get unhinged if we do this?
We go to war against this side. I don't see how that's ever going to lead to any kind of de-escalation in a way that's favorable to those of us who don't have a we necessarily.
Because they have to feel that there's risk involved to them if they do it again. If they don't feel the risk, they're going to keep doing it. They've proven that. It's the only way to keep the kid from touching the stove again is for them to touch the hot stove. But they have to feel the pain in order for it to really bring the lesson home. Otherwise, the kid might touch the cold stove a second time. Not that I've favored this in my own family. I'm not saying this is a parenting method. But I'm just saying for these guys, unless they actually fear that this could happen to them or their family, they will do it again. They think the ends justify the means. They did something truly extraordinary and dangerous when they did this to Trump and his people.
Which was prosecuted for crimes that he committed, by the way, right? So that's my take verbatim. But she's not even factually correct on anything because she's a soulless ghoul fucking hack fuck who doesn't even have the excuse for it, right? Because she is an attorney. She knows she's fucking lying. She knows it's part of the game she's playing. She knows that she is a disgusting, subhuman piece of shit, right? But that's exactly my take. And there's no pushback and nobody cares and there's no hand-wringing. But when Megyn Kelly goes on the show and gives his take in front of them, right? And now the centrists, like epic centrists are here and they're like, oh shit, I don't know, right? Megyn Kelly's not going to get called out by the entire conservative establishment. They're all going to be clapping and cheering for her. And they're like, yeah, exactly, based queen. But if a Democrat says something like that, well, we need to go hard, right? But this is exactly my take, right? All I'm saying is that Republicans know this. They play the game. They'll pretend to be offended. And then when they pretend to be offended, people on the left are like, oh, look, we offended them. We need to be, more chill. It's like, bro, they know exactly what the game is. They know exactly what they're doing.
What do you think would help Democrats take back power more? Running on court reforms or running on the economy? Like making people's paychecks go further, help, providing relief for families that are struggling to make ends meet, expanding like social welfare benefits. Like, what do you think would be more motivating for voters?
Probably kitchen table issues like that.
There you go. I mean, I just feel like I just feel like I've never seen any real indication that, apart from like 2022 after Roe, but that didn't even last 2 years, right? Like, voters have not demonstrated that the court reforms is something that really motivates them. And I also just want to game out your kind of...
That didn't last 2 years. Well, I think it feels like it didn't last that long. First of all, I think abortion was still a pretty motivating thing because women are always getting pregnant and care about their ability to have an abortion. Believe it or not, that's a thing that's always impacting women. And it impacts especially the conservative men that knock them up and then drive them to outer states to get abortions. But the problem is that it doesn't feel like we can do anything about it. Like, that's the issue, right? Okay, well, the abortion thing sucks. Should I vote Democrat? I mean, like, it would help a little bit. We know the rights won't get rolled back even more, but fuck, what are you going to do? Like, because it seems like even if we, win again, like, I don't even know if you can make a law allowing abortion everywhere, or if the Supreme Court would strike that down. I don't know what that would look like,
But like, let's just play it out then, right? Like,
sure.
Tell me what you're in charge of the Democratic Party right now. Like, day one, like, hit the ground running. What does your strategy look like in practice?
Are you talking about now or when we're back into power?
Right now, like, right now, right? You're saying that they should make court packing, I assume, like a central pillar of the party platform. So what does that look like?
Yeah, so I would probably, this is just me spitballing here, but I would probably say, I would use this issue about the Voting Rights Act to be like, something to the effect of, all right, folks, so here's the deal. If you look at our policies on a blind test, right? You don't associate it with a particular name. You talk about just Democratic policies in general versus Republican. You just see the policy items. We know you support our agenda. You support, Obamacare. You support expanding the ACA. You support cheaper, more affordable healthcare. You support whatever the issue is. A right-wing Supreme Court, which is what we currently have, we have to face facts. They're going to cock block all of it. They're going to cock block as much of it as possible, just like they did under Joe Biden, just like they're giving a green light to Donald Trump. These people are not nonpartisan actors. They are the Supreme Court, but they have a partisan edge. And so this party, the Democratic Party, we've tiptoed around this issue, but in the second Trump administration, as they've greenlit this, and I would name issues that they have allowed Trump to run roughshod over, as the Supreme Court has allowed Trump to run roughshod while simultaneously putting him above the law, as they take away your federal abortion protections, as they won't even police their own. They're engaging in egregious corruption, and I would cite the Clarence Thomas stuff. This Democratic Party has unfortunately just hoped that the Supreme Court would conduct itself in a nonpartisan, professional way. But we have Donald Trump, who's in the White House, who thinks he's a king above the law. And we also have 9 philosopher kings in robes who feel the same way. The Supreme Court needs to be changed. The truth is, if you ever put us back into power, they're going to try to stop so much of what we want to do because they support Trump, because they support MAGA. They are MAGA in robes. So in order to, have an agenda which you all clearly support, get through this court, in order to prevent court corruption, the sort of laws that regulate Congress, that, I can't accept a gift from more than $30 without reporting it or giving it back. The Supreme Court, their justices are getting millions of dollars in undisclosed gifts. They're the least democratic branch, the least accountable, and they're keeping it that way. And they're acting again as 9 God kings above the law. This court needs to be reformed, and it is practical. And here's how it affects you in a real way. So, Donald Trump has tried to get them to repeal and replace Obamacare. They took down, I can't remember what it was, the mandate or whatever. They made a carve out for Obamacare. They're allowing Trump to, initiate to continue his tariffs, which are raising your taxes for all intents and purposes. You're paying more because of Donald Trump's tariffs, which the Supreme Court is permitting. They're going out of their way, bending over backwards to let him harm you in the most egregious way, and then they're dragging their feet to stop him. The Supreme Court needs to be reformed. We need to expand the court, rebalance it, and we need to have binding codes of conduct to prevent corruption. You all hate corruption, right? I don't know. That would be how I would try to tie it to the very tangible defeats, the very tangible losses that they've suffered under Trump. This court's permitted.
And you think you can, with this kind of messaging, a full 3 years removed from the next presidential election, you think you can shift public opinion like 30 points in the next 3 years?
I'm not sure.
I don't know if it would be politically good or not. It's my fantasy. I think that part of the government shutdown ending should be tied to forcing Donald Trump to completely divest from his 2 crypto scams. I feel like that's an easy ask. It's crazy that I even say I don't know if that's possible politically, but you should force Trump to go up and defend, and every single liberal media network and everything, every time a Republican comes on, should be like, can you explain why do you think the president of the United States and his family should be allowed to accept anonymous donations that are untraceable from anybody else around the world, and make them defend that point? And when they go, well, what about Hunter Biden? Then kick them. Have a professional kicker. Okay, bring in, is it Cristiano Ronaldo? Bring a kicker and kick him in the balls. Okay, or in the fucking puss every time they give a pivot. Okay, do that and ask them over and over again. Just explain, why should the president of the United States be allowed to accept anonymous money, untraceable anonymous money from anybody on the planet? Why should he be allowed to do that? Explain that why, and make them defend that point. Otherwise, get rid of it. That should be an easy ask, okay? We don't fund the government until you guys, no more Trump coin, no more Melania coin. That's the bare minimum that's not even the bare minimum. That's like a threshold issue of, are you a decent human being even? It's just crazy.
You think you can shift public opinion like 30 points? In the next 3
I'm not sure.
In the next
I'm not
3
sure.
years?
I'm saying I'm at the point, given the existential nature of this, I would much prefer we try that. I would much prefer we try to make it, that we actually invest political capital to make it a higher salience issue and try to rally the base and rally support, instead of just, do what we've done before, which is assume that, maybe one day the American people just naturally, organically say, you know what, I don't like the way that this court is structured, and maybe I'll give the green light for it to go through. That's what I think.
The only thing that I can think of that might support your position here, and I'm open to it, I'm open to this being possible, would be, if you did something like that and it provoked an extreme reaction from Republican, that could end up really backfiring spectacularly, especially if it's in concert with.
At some point, also, you just need to let it backfire. Again, I don't want to be extremist or Fed post or whatever. Obviously, civil war sucks, and I've said it should be we don't want that to be the case, but it can't be this constant capitulation and fright of oh no, well, what if they get really mad, and what if it gets explosive? It's okay, well, how far down that road are we going to go? How many deals with the devil are you going to make until you're in the depths of hell and you're like, fuck, it's kind of hot down here. Maybe we should have, fought over one of the forks in the roads 50 decisions before we wound up here next to fucking Brutus and whoever else is at the bottom. It just can't be. It can't be that way, right? It can't be that way. At some point you have to say fuck it, then we take a loss on this. This is a thing we have to find issues that are worth fighting for. Hello? Wait. Oh, yeah.
Struggling economy. Voters, I think, will forgive a lot if they feel like their paycheck is going further, as is evidenced by Trump's win in November. Right. I think that was the big motivating thing. But if the economy is doing poorly and then they do this, Democratic Party provokes them into doing this extreme action, then I can imagine that's backfiring spectacularly. I know it's difficult right now to believe that the Democratic Party could ever get, Obama level majorities ever again, but it's not impossible. Like, this moment is very fraught, but it's not impossible. And things can change very, very quickly, especially if you have like a struggling economy. And so maybe that would backfire like really spectacularly, and it would lead to, even after the Voting Rights Act, it would lead to, Republicans having like a really strong majority. But I don't know. There's just to me, there's just a lot of risk with what it's not even the risk of the Republicans preemptively attacking the court. That to me is not even the most immediate risk. The most immediate risk to me, I think, is if they just get rid of the filibuster. If they just get rid of the filibuster, then, I love the filibuster when we're out of power and I hate it when we're in power.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, it's a tool. I mean, but look, they've been further weakening the filibuster since Trump's been back in office. They have not abandoned it entirely, I think, because they recognize that, again, that would allow Democrats, even when they got back into power, to, pass more progressive legislation. And generally speaking, like when McConnell refused to abolish the filibuster in Trump term 1, because Trump wanted him to, Trump's like, no, McConnell, was like, no, I'm good with it because the shit that I really care about, which are tax cuts and judges, I can get through just fine with the filibuster because we've already done carve-outs for judges and we have reconciliation for tax cuts. And so I think that that's another reason, is that most of the Republican agenda, the big shit that they care about, judges and tax cuts, they can usually get through by sidestepping the filibuster. They don't have to get rid of it wholesale. But I don't believe that they have a principled commitment to it. And I think that they'll discard at the moment that they think that, they actually really want to do something that they all give a shit about, not just Trump, but John Thune and Mike Johnson.
It is holding for now. Like, it is holding for now. Like, it does have enough. I mean, there are, like, the Senate, that's where the grown-ups are, kind of like the quote-unquote grown-ups. Like, the House is more chaotic, but there's a lot of like quote-unquote
carve-outs for it.
I understand that, but it's still, there's not a real risk right now of them getting rid of the filibuster to do like legislation, just regular legislation. I know they've done carve-outs for the one big beautiful bill. I don't know if they did a filibuster carve-out, did they? I think it was more that had to do with the Senate parliamentarian. I think they just ignored the Senate parliamentarian, because the Senate parliamentarian said that the reason, so like the Republicans permanently, I think, extended Trump's tax cuts. And the rationale they used was that the tax cuts that were in place, that were passed in 2017, were treated as like existing policy instead of a new policy, which would need to break a filibuster. I think they just ignored the filibuster. I don't know if they broke a filibuster or got rid of the filibuster. Maybe that's
no, they didn't get rid of the filibuster. What I'm saying is they bent procedure to sidestep the filibuster.
Yeah,
you can do that with a nuclear option, or you can do that with other procedural gimmicks.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Six of one, half a dozen of another. You understand
what I mean, though. Like, there's not right now. They do not appear even close to being poised to get rid of the filibuster.
No, what he's talking about there. Somebody can remember. I'm pretty sure what he's talking about there. That, they didn't like actually get rid of the filibuster. They just sidestepped it a little bit. So that's not a big deal. That's his take on that. And I'm not trying to be mean to Hutch. Okay, I'm not trying to be mean to Hutch. Okay, but that's Hutch's take on that. The Republican take on that, because I believe that's the exact same thing that Harry Reid did. The Republican take on that was like, oh my God. Oh, so you really do want to be able to have Obama appointing federal judges like he's supposed to? Oh, really? You're gonna sidestep the parliamentarian rules? Okay, well, we'll see what happens when your Supreme Court pick comes up, because we're getting your ass on that one. And that's exactly what McConnell did. And it was a response to Harry Reid. I believe it was because of sidestepping the Senate rules for that, because the Republicans weren't approving any judges, right? And McConnell's like, I'm going to get your ass on that. And he did. So what Hutch is saying we should just kind of accept passively was the rationale. That was the casus belli for McConnell to say, no Supreme Court pick for you, because you guys did that to us. And we're like, do you see the asymmetry? Do you see the asymmetry?
And I don't think that they would ever just abolish the filibuster outright. I think that they would do, again, what they've usually done, which is the shit that they care about, they will just simply make more and more exceptions for the filibuster, try to sidestep it in other ways. And I don't think just getting rid of it outright is something that they would do, again, not out of principle, but because they don't have to. I don't think they would take it that far. And again, that's kind of my mindset about why I'm still not convinced that if they thought the Democrats were looking to expand the court, that they would just add 60 justices, because they could do that. But it's like they already have a 6-3 conservative supermajority who, for the most part, gives them what they want. So to me, it's pretty analogous in that way. But again, yes, of course, they could abolish the filibuster tomorrow if they want. I agree that they're not poised to, because I think that they're getting, for the most part, what they want anyway with the shit that they're currently doing. But no, look, at the end of the day, I just keep coming back to, I don't see it. Set aside Supreme Court reform, just set all of that aside. When you see this situation come up, where again, on the balance of probability, the VRA is done, probably. What's the answer to that? Vote harder.
I still don't know anything about like Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, or what that means. Like, what are we losing if that goes away? Was that the thing that prevented North Carolina from getting rid of the surgical targeting or whatever of the polling places and all the ballot boxes, to just make it so black people had a harder time voting? Was that what that prevented? I think it was. They lose all the mandated minority districts, basically Why you say random 1 to 2 Dem districts in Alabama, Louisiana, etc. So you can have race. So this would mean you could have racial considerations in drawing districts. My God. Taking my sunglasses off to reveal my second pair of sunglasses. How glorious.
Or clearly isn't going to work. So like, I'm the reason that I'm ready to break glass in case of emergency is because I don't just see this as a major policy. It's not like Biden wanting to.
You don't have the leverage. You don't have the leverage to break the glass right now. I think that's the point I'm making. What position are the Democratic?
Like Hutch is right. We don't have the leverage, but this is the car example I gave before. Make it. We have some leverage right now, right? There is a government shutdown. Leverage that. If that doesn't work, I don't know. Get some governors to kick out all the federal enforcement in the state. Fuck it. Force a thing to happen. Have every single governor, not federalize, stateralize. I don't know what you would say. Activate their National Guard and don't let Trump do it. I don't know. Stop paying tax. I don't know what the federal income tax collection is like from. I don't know. Find ways to fight on it. Make leverage. How do we have no leverage? We're the richest constituents. We produce most of the economic outcome. We generate all of the world value. Like, we're the ones that are subsidizing the rest of the country's productivity, ability to exist. How do we have no leverage? How is it that San Francisco and LA don't have leverage on St. Louis and fucking Birmingham? What do you mean we don't have any leverage? I don't understand. In what world do we not have any leverage at all? It doesn't make any sense to me. Make it.
You don't have the leverage to break the glass right now. I think that's the point I'm making. What position are the Democratic Party to break the glass? What does that even mean right now?
No, break the glass. Break the glass isn't pack the court or whatever. Break the glass is actually start making it, like investing enormous political capital to try to make it a popular, high salience issue.
Yeah, I mean,
I think motivate voters.
So I agree with that strategy, but the point I'm making is that I think that you need to just be so fucking careful about how, like, it cannot just be a strategy of just like, okay, day one blitzkrieg, we just go and we just blast out our plans and just like, it has to be something.
It's so funny because what did he just describe? Wait, does anybody know what he just described? Can anybody think in U.S. history, what did he just describe?
I think that you need to just be so fucking careful.
Don't do this thing.
About how, like, it cannot just be a strategy of just like, okay, day one blitzkrieg, we just go and we just blast out our plans and just like, it has to be something.
How many EOs did Trump sign on day one? This motherfucker was an executive order Kinkos. This guy was printing them off like he didn't even know what any of these were. People are sign this. It was like if you've ever filled out papers for a mortgage before, it's like you step into the office and like, oh, there's like 400 things you have to sign. Like, Jesus. Birmingham is very liberal, my God. Yeah, I just don't know the name of any southern cities, okay? Fuck you. Jacksonville, how about that? All the cities I can think of are probably liberal.
Thing that is like it's a plan that's like thought about in terms of like years and not necessarily like months. You're not going to change that opinion like really, really fast. And you have to be careful about the kind of rhetoric that you use and what kind of intentions that you signal, because you could provoke an extreme reaction from Republicans.
Extreme reaction!
I don't know what
we don't want to provoke an extreme. This is the second family member who's been raped and murdered. And then you're sitting there with your one family member left. You're like, okay, we don't want to provoke the guy. Ooh.
Democrats right now are in a very strong position to be the ones making the case for this kind of.
And like, you know, Hitler's party only had 27% of the parliament or whatever, right? When they passed the Enabling Act. I need to go look at the exact, like, yeah, we're in a strong political position-ish right now. Do you know who else has technically, like, internationally, a really strong political position? One of the strongest political positions in the world is the Palestinians. But look at their material conditions. They're not that good. It doesn't really fucking matter, right?
And so I don't know if the Democrats right now are in a very strong position to be the ones making the case for this kind of thing right now. Like, maybe that situation is different in a year from now.
Well,
maybe.
I feel like I feel like we're Joker and Batman. We're destined to do this forever because, look, man, I understand we can't beautifully demark this with a bright line, but it's like provoke the Republicans into an extreme response. I mean, like I thought you said this. Maybe I had it confused with another Live and Learn co-host, but like, dude, they were fucking calling Barack Obama a communist and campaigning on this shit back in 2008, and he was as fucking neoliberal. Biden is the least neoliberal president in modern American history.
That's just the political machine, though. I'm talking about we have to. When I'm talking about the Senate, right? Like, when we're talking about the Senate, you know, first of all, it's like it isn't a monolith, right? But when we're talking about the Senate, there are people that principally support the filibuster in the Senate. Like, lots and lots of senators on both sides of the aisle that just principally support.
No, conservatives have no principles. They don't. There probably our Democrats are. They do, and there are some principles that are worth defending. I don't know if the filibuster is one of them. Also, I'm a filibuster cuck, by the way, and an electoral college cuck, and a Supreme Court cuck. These are all things that Josiah's fought with me on the past on, and I'm a massive institutional cuck, okay? But right now, what the fuck? What? Conservatives are demons. What are the principles that these guys have? They don't care about. What do they not care about? They don't care about states' rights. We heard that a lot, right? What did they say over and over again? What kind of a country were we when on November 4th? What kind of country are we? We're a constitutional republic. We're not a fucking democracy. Okay, we're not a fucking democracy. We're a goddamn constitutional republic. And get it fucking straight. Oh, wait, who just won the election? We're the most democratic country. All right, democracy, democracy, democracy. They have no principles on anything. Okay, you can indict a ham sandwich. You're going to do fucking lawfare against this? Oh, you're going to do a rigged New York State jury? You really get jury trials? Oh, indictments against Comey. Well, the grand jury is actually the most sacred judicial process that's ever existed in the history of the United States. These grand jury indictments are good as gold, right? They have no principles on anything. States' rights, no one gives a fuck, right? The no new wars, rename it to the Department of War. No one gives a fuck, right? Support our allies in Ukraine. Rubio spun around so fucking fast on this. He almost looked as retarded as he did in the 2016 primaries. All right, he's like, oh, I support Ukraine. Oh, never mind, right? Like none of these guys have any principles for anything. Like who's principally attached to anything in the Republican Party? Or rather, to have a principle means you're willing to stand up for it. Who's principally attached to anything who will stand up for that principle? Because Massey, I guess, people who are already on the way out. Has he announced that he's not running for election? Like all the ones that are get immediately killed from the party. Cheney's gone. Kinzinger's gone. I imagine, is Massey going to try to, is he supposed to run again? Rand Paul is there as kind of like I don't know how he hangs on so much, but
support the filibuster. That's not some like made up thing. Like I think Thune, like just full on institutionally, he supports the filibuster. Like it's not something that they're just itching to get rid of. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think they're itching to abolish it wholesale either. I don't. But I don't think like I put McConnell and Thune more or less in the same boat in terms of people who are not like taking a fucking wrecking ball to the Senate for no reason. But I don't think he has a principled commitment to the filibuster. I genuinely believe that if John Thune thought, you do? Yeah. You think they both do or just Thune?
No. Well, they both do. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, we fundamentally disagree on that one. But yeah, I as far as like,
I mean, they did the fucking carve out for the filibuster for judicial appointments. Yeah. In fairness, Harry Reid did the same thing when he was Senate Majority Leader as a Democrat.
Okay, two things. Well, wait a minute.
Oh my God. And Hutch even knows. He brought up Josiah has to crucify this. What happened when Harry Reid did that? That was the impetus. That is how Republicans justify deleting our Supreme Court pick. That was their justification, was when Harry Reid did that. Also, one of the examples earlier that Josiah brought up about them breaking rules that they made, he didn't say the name, but he was referring to them saying, okay, well, because the Republicans created some new rule out of thin air. They're like, well, if it's an election season and, you know, this guy's a lame duck or whatever, if it's an election, no, it was like, if it's 1 year to an election or something, we're not going to do any Supreme Court picks until the next president is elected, because that's the people's choice. And as soon as Trump had the chance to replace, was it Sotomayor? It's like, actually, just kidding. Just kidding. That was a fucking lie. And I actually can't believe you fucking bought it. You guys are actually fucking retarded, but thank you. We will be doing another pick. Thanks.
And two things. I don't think that Harry Reid had a principled commitment to the filibuster either. And number two, we can do this infinite regress. I do this with Wick all the time. Why did Harry Reid make a carve out for the filibuster?
Because the Republicans were totally obstructing
blocking
judicial
everything,
points. And so
to an unprecedented degree, right? Like not, yeah. So, right. So I mean, he didn't just wake up one morning and say, "Well, fuck the filibuster." He begged McConnell, "Stop doing this, or I'm not going to let you just totally bring this presidency to a halt."
Yeah.
So he had his reasons for doing so, and McConnell. The reason that he did with the Supreme Court justice is because he wanted Gorsuch to pass, and Democrats weren't allowing that to happen. So plus he promised in advance, like, if you do this, I'm just going to retaliate.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't think any of them have a principled commitment to the filibuster. I think that you don't make exceptions for that sort of thing if you do.
Well, and look, it worked, right? McConnell said, if you fuck with us here, we're going to come back and fuck you so hard, right? And what is Hutch saying right now? Well, fuck, if we do a thing, they're going to fuck us so hard, right? It worked. It works. Because the tit for tat and the make them be afraid, like what Megyn Kelly just said, is work. It's a good strategy politically. It's a good strategy in a lot of ways in life, is to control somebody by telling somebody, okay, well, let's play chicken, but I'm suicidal. It's like, okay, well, fuck me, I guess, because I'm a pussy. Oh, well, I guess that suicidal guy's always going to win. And he doesn't have to kill himself. What a great game, you know?
Think that, listen, I believe in, super majorities or qualified majorities making decisions in a bipartisan way, then there would be no exceptions made.
Well, why did McConnell blow up the filibuster for regular legislation when he was leader?
Because, he was very clear about that, because tax cuts and judges are what he gave a fuck about, and he has reconciliation for tax cuts, and he already made a filibuster carve out for Supreme Court justices. And I'll point out, it's not a filibuster, but it's a form of it's an anti-majoritarian control. The blue slip in the Senate Judiciary Committee, McConnell's Senate majority under Republicans, they wiped out the blue slip rule, which allowed basically Trump. Basically, the blue slip, if you're Senator Hutch from California, and I'm President Josiah and I have a Supreme Court, or if I have a judicial nominee of any kind, you can say, hey, Mr. President, I don't like this nominee. I'm withholding my blue slip. You need to pick a different nominee. And that's been the tradition for decades, bipartisan. And McConnell got rid of it. Chuck Grassley got rid of it. He was the chairman under McConnell in the Senate Judiciary Committee, because
Josiah needs to, this is a waste of time. Josiah needs to cut through the bullshit, and Josiah needs to say, let's assume that Trump has something on his agenda that he really wants to get through Congress. And the only way he can do it is by killing the filibuster. Do you think that he will find support in Congress to do that? Or do you think enough Republicans, is it 3 or 4? How many do you need? Will stand up to Trump and say, no, we're not going to do that? What do you think would happen? The answer should be obvious. They would buckle. You'd have your Rand Paul is a senator, right? You'd have a couple maybe defectors in name, because at the end of the day, it won't matter to the vote.
They just wanted to rubber stamp Trump getting his judicial nominees through at a circuit court level. So this idea that the GOP is committed principally to anti-majoritarian institutions, like, no, they're smart about it. They're clever. They're like, we're not going to cut off more than what we think we need at the time, but they're absolutely willing to if it's a high enough of a priority.
You know, I have not seen any indication that leadership in both parties are signaling like a serious intention to like get rid of the filibuster. I think the Senate. I think the Senate is packed to the gills with people that very much want that filibuster to remain in place, and there's no reason to think that they're gonna get rid of the filibuster anytime soon.
I'm not claiming that. I want to be clear. I'm not claiming that either party is seriously planning on getting rid of the filibuster. I'm saying that I don't think they have a principled commitment to it. It's like getting rid of abolishing the filibuster wholesale is a massive movement. For the longest time, I was against it. As a Democrat, I was just like, just make more exceptions. Because for precisely the reason you laid out. I like the fact that the filibuster is there right now, stopping stopping Republicans on some things. Like right now, the government shutdown, but that could change tomorrow. They could change it. So my position for most of the past 6 years was, don't just get rid of it wholesale, just make more and more exceptions. And then I kept hearing, well, then the GOP is going to make more and more exceptions. Fine, who cares? And then if we slowly whittle it away, so be it. At least it offers some sort of like versatile tool on the table in the meantime, rather than just snapping your fingers and wiping it out. But I don't think it's a principal commitment to that. I think that they will get rid of what they think they need to get rid of in order to pass the shit they care about most. And the thing they care about most, tax cuts and judges, they don't need to get rid of the filibuster. And the thing they did need to get rid of the filibuster for, judges, they already did.
Okay. Well, apart from the conversation about all that, I think I'm having a bit of a Chuck Schumer moment here. I think that's where we're sort of.
You're aroused?
I am very aroused every time we speak. And I'm wearing gray sweatpants, so if I stood up, it would really show. But
you knocked the fucking table over. I understand.
But I think I'm having a Chucky Schumer moment here because the case that he made back in, I think, March for not picking that fight right then was that basically the Democrats just didn't have enough or really any leverage in that moment to pick a fight over an unpopular issue. And his logic was he wanted to wait until now to pick that fight when Donald Trump's popular support will have cratered and he would be in.
Well, no, he acknowledged. I don't think that's quite right. He acknowledged they had leverage. He just felt that two things. Trump was not that sweet spot where he felt that he could be more popular and the leverage down the road.
Well, that's what I mean by leverage. I mean, he had institutional leverage in that they did have the power to block, but he's saying in terms of the leverage during the negotiations, they didn't really have strong leverage. Donald Trump was still on a bit of the honeymoon period, and the Democrats were in a really rough spot. And to be honest with you, I think old Chucky boy was a bit vindicated. I think he was right. I think
I'm not surprised that you think that at all.
But I think the fact that they didn't pick that fight then strengthens their position now.
No, but Americans are retarded, bro. Americans don't give a fuck.
Frankly, but at the end of the day,
I think he was right about that, because when you look at the situation now, I think they are in a stronger position because they didn't just swing for the fences right away. And I think that's all I'm suggesting here. I'm just suggesting that you need to pick your spots. You need to.
How do you think he's been vindicated? That's where I'm confused, because it's not like it's mutually exclusive. You either use this leverage in March or April or whenever.
I mean, he was just right. He was right that that Donald Trump's popularity will have plummeted by fall and would give them more leverage in a negotiation.
But what have we gotten for that? What have we gotten for that? You have to translate these things at the end of the day to something else, right? We're fighting a lot in government, but we're not doing anything with policy. Republicans have abandoned government, but they're doing everything with policy, right?
Just right about that objectively.
Well, I don't think anyone contested the idea that Trump's approval rating was likely to be lower as time went on.
You didn't know. Wait, hang on. I don't know. I feel like we were having conversations on Live and Learn about like, I don't know if he's going to be more popular this time around. I really don't know.
Well, no, we didn't know if he was going to be more popular this time around, but I think we all agreed that on the balance of probability with Trump and really with most presidents, as time goes on, they become less popular. I don't think that was the sticking point with Schumer. With Schumer, that wasn't what people disagreed over. The idea that we have to wait until Trump is even less popular than he is now. I mean, yeah, again, fuck it, just keep doing continuing resolutions, and then wait another year. He's probably going to be more popular in a year than he is now, right? That was kind of the point, is like this idea of, no, we need to wait. Okay, till when? Till he's less popular. Okay, well, why now in October?
Position? Because he's less popular.
Yeah, he might be popular next October 2026.
I mean, unlikely.
You don't think so?
Unlikely. I mean, presidents usually don't turn their popularity around. I mean, like Obama and Clinton did, but
no, I'm saying he might be. Wait, maybe I misspoke. I'm saying he's probably going to be less popular in October 2026 than he is right now.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, probably maybe a few points. I don't know what his total basement is, but I would suspect.
But that's my point. Is it wasn't this idea of like, okay, Trump is going to be less popular as time goes on. It was your base wants to fight now. They want to fight now. They want to see that you've got teeth now.
It's not just
and
about
there's
the
nothing
base.
And there's nothing.
It's not just about the base, though. It's not just about the base. Like when you're talking about like leverage in a budget fight, that resulted in a government shutdown. The center is just as important as your own base. But like if the center perceives the Democratic Party as overreaching after a pretty brutal election for them,
overreaching, bruh, overreaching. We're like a T-Rex trying to get a fucking piece of pie off the table. And we're across this table from fucking Stretch Armstrong. Overreaching. We're having videos played of Trump openly committing war crimes, blowing up random boats in the Atlantic, and we're memeing about it. Like, overreaching. What the fuck are we talking about? The Department of Homeland Security doesn't even know what habeas corpus is. Kash Patel is firing people en masse at the FBI who are not politically loyal enough to the cause. Overreaching. What are we reaching for?
Then that reduces their leverage in a negotiation. But the fact that like even the center right now, is backing Democrats at a higher level than they are Trump, and they're blaming Trump more. That stuff really matters. Like Pelosi was on a Sunday show, I think she did an interview, and she was talking about the importance of just like public opinion and how that really influences these kinds of negotiations. And I think she's right. Like, and the more that Donald Trump leans into the unhinged shit and fires thousands of federal workers, and he's just going to make his position even weaker as they go on. The Democrats are just looking stronger and stronger in this fight right now.
Yeah, but stronger. You have to you got to be careful about what we're talking about too, right? Because at some point, like this is only like there's all of this stuff only matters so that you can do policy. That's the only thing that matters, right? Like at some point we have, like, if I show you a person, I'm like, okay, let's have a determination. Tell me if you think this person is healthy or not, okay? They have 14% body fat. Their A1C is perfect. All of their labs are, great. They're flexible. They get a lot of exercise. They do all this stuff, right? Like, what do you think is the overall health of this person? Like, it sounds like, from every number and stat that you're showing me from the labs that you ran a week ago, every single thing, it looks like this guy seems like he's doing pretty good. It's like, okay, well, what if this person drowned 2 days ago? They're fucking dead. These numbers don't matter. This is a dead motherfucker, okay? This is like Trump is sending in the National Guard and some fucking weird paramilitary hit squad to fucking Chuck Schumer's home, and Schumer's like, hold on, excuse me, you're going to kill me when you're at 12% popularity? You sure about that, bucko? You think you can kill me when CNN's last poll just showed that you are the least popular president of all time? Excuse me. Try again, loser. Like, we have to remember at the end of the day that politics is for power, that all the polling and all this shit only matters if you can fucking do anything with it. That's the only thing that actually matters at the end of the day. And regardless of Trump's popularity, that hasn't slowed him the fuck down.
And
yeah, I understand all that. I agree with all that. And I would probably agree with you that if it's like, okay, we only get to play this card once, do we play it while he's at the peak of his popularity or far from the nadir of his unpopularity, or do we wait until he's less popular? Then I would agree with you, but I don't think they're mutually exclusive.
But it would have made this fight more difficult, I think. I think if you already put out this perception that you're overstepping and you're abusing procedure or whatever, if that's how that...
I feel like, and this is my these are just political intuitions. I could be wrong, but my intuition is Hutch is exactly wrong here. That he's saying that this made our fight easier by doing nothing in the past. I feel like the reason why the Republicans are falling in popularity, but there's no popularity being gained by the Democrats, not that much, is because we've done nothing in the past. Sometimes it feels like Democrats, it feels like we're doing every single thing we can to try to justify doing nothing, right? Like you wake up and it's like Monday morning and you're supposed to gym at 9 o'clock and you wake up and it's 9:01. And it's like, fuck, I can't go to the gym today. I'll be late. And it's like, well, no, you can probably still go. Well, the pair of sweatpants I normally wear is not, they're dirty. Well, you probably have another pair of pants. Well, I went downstairs and it's raining outside. So to cross the building parking lot, it's like, get an umbrella. Well, what if I go to the gym and there's a guy curling in the rack? Well, do something else first. Well, what if somebody has COVID in the gym? Like, it feels like sometimes like, okay, how many different ways are we going to try to justify doing nothing until we realize like, okay, well, shit's not happening for us. Nothing is happening magically or automatically. I don't know what we're waiting for.
And that would have been the risk of doing it back then, of just like, really, you guys are going to do this right now in the first like month? I think it makes this moment a lot more tenuous. People would be like, oh, are they overstepping again, right? But because they didn't do that, because they chose to pick their fights and wait for the better opportunity, then they have an advantage right now. That advantage might not be here if Schumer would have picked that fight back then.
Maybe not, but maybe not. Again, we don't know, but again, I just don't see this as vindication for Schumer precisely because we don't know what would have happened if he had played this card back in, again, March or April or whenever it was, and here, or one or the other. Like, we just don't know. Yeah. That's the point. And the other thing I'll say is, can't we just like extrapolate this logic to any sort of counterfactual? Like, Democrats are vindicated no matter what, because like, hey, it's bad now or it's successful now, and we don't know if it could have been worse or more successful if we played it differently.
What fight did you want? I mean, what would you have wanted to pick a fight about last time?
Can you just address that part first? About how do you make a determination that the Democrats made a mistake or that they weren't vindicated whenever they do anything?
Well, I think the most important metric right now, while they're out of power, is public approval. Like it's like what the voters themselves think. That's how I would gauge that kind of thing. Because what else I don't know how else you would gauge success.
But we don't have an apples to apples comparison, right? Because he didn't do this back in April. So it's not like we can compare approval for the shutdown, disapproval for the shutdown in March versus now, right? We have nothing to compare to.
Well, what did you want him to shut the government down for back in March? Doge cuts? Is that really what we're talking about?
Again, like this question, you don't be mean to Hutch. I hate you guys, okay? But like this question, like, well, what could we have possibly shut the government down for in March? Doge cuts, LOL. First of all, Doge was fucking insane. Everything about Doge was disgusting and horrible and unethical and evil. What about the Eric Adams shit? The actual weaponization of the DOJ, that was already on board back in March, right? When did the Abrego Garcia stuff start? Hadn't that already been on the docket? Hadn't that already happened? What about the authorization of the Alien Enemies Act? Wasn't that already happening back in March? Had that been happening yet? I mean, like, there are so many crazy. What about Trump and Melania coin? When did that start? What about all the tariffs? When did those start? What about the declaring of the national emergency to the north and south because of fentanyl? When did that start? What about when did he do the executive order to rescind birthright citizenship? What was the date for that? We can't think of a single thing that might have been worth fighting on. Nothing.
Yeah, and Doge was wildly unpopular. Excuse me, at the time.
In March?
It could have been, but it was also, I think,
like what Josiah is doing is a good example here. Okay, right? Like let's say that I sit and do nothing, and my opponent makes a mistake, and he's less popular. Does that really vindicate your position of doing nothing? What if you would have done something and they would have been unpopular, but you would have been way more popular, right? Maybe. Who's to say, right? Just because you're doing better doesn't necessarily vindicate your position. Maybe you'd be doing way better. Who knows? And like Doge was wildly unpopular, right? Doge was wildly unpopular, but it was allowed to pass with some degree of success, and it passed unnoticed. Like, did the voters hold Donald Trump responsible for the failures of Doge? Like, they managed to cut away one or two departments or sub-departments as a result. I don't know if you said the Department of Education is gone because of Doge, but they managed to fire a whole bunch of federal employees. They got rid of USAID illegally, probably. The Supreme Court allowed it to stand for now. They were able to pass along some bullshit cuts to the big, beautiful bill, the budget regulation or whatever, right? And then they got that passed, their permanent tax cuts, without a majority, by the way, but still kept the filibuster. So, 15 million or whatever people dead, I guess, because LOL trans condoms or whatever. Where's the punishment for that?
popular, excuse me, at the time.
In March?
It could have been, but it was also, I think, now I'm getting my timeline confused. Wasn't there when was the one big beautiful bill passed?
July or August. I think July. I think it was, or June. Might have been June.
Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the highlight was the Doge cuts at the time of the first thing. Like, yeah, why not? Why would that have been a bad thing to do a shutdown over?
Again, the risk would be that the perception would be that you're blowing your wad way too early. Like you're picking a fight way too early.
On Doge? That this creepy weirdo fucking ketamine addicted loser was sending in his 23-year-old retarded tech dipshits to go and is pilfer a real word? To go and sneak through all these government systems and the retarded fucking emails. Like even federal employees knew that those emails were fucking cringe. Send me an email with 5 things that you're working on. Give me a fucking break, you loser fuck. Oh my God. The only way we should support the fucking Elon Musk space program is if he's the first motherfucker that goes to Mars, because get this guy the fuck out of here.
Yeah, and so no, again, I take your point. I think that was always
overreach.
a potential.
It's perceived overreach. That is a thing in politics where parties are punished for perceived overreach. I mean, it happened when Clinton was president when they tried to impeach him over the blowjob thing. That actually kind of backfired on them in the moment.
Excuse me, it was lying. It was.
What do they think backfired? Did the impeachment of Clinton backfire on conservatives ever? How did it?
Happened when Clinton was president when they tried to impeach him over the blowjob thing. That actually kind of backfired on them in the moment.
Excuse me, it was lying. It was perjuring himself. It was not over the blowjob. Right. How dare you?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, again, I take your point. I think that was always a risk. We just felt that the risk was worth it. But again, set all that aside. At what point then can we disagree or say that Democrats are not vindicated in anything they do?
Do you
understand what I'm asking?
Yeah. If the public blamed Democrats more for the shutdown, and if they supported, Donald Trump and Republicans more, and they perceived if the Democrats were perceived as overreaching, then that would be a failure, and it would weaken their position in future fights as well.
No. Maybe we're talking past each other. Maybe I'm just not getting it. Whenever the Democrats make a decision, what's to stop me from saying that was the right call every time, even if it didn't work, because the alternative could have been worse?
I think I understand what you're saying, but
yeah, I'm trying not to strawman you, but I think you have a bad habit of just swallowing anything that they do by saying the alternative could have been worse, and you don't know.
To be fair, I think you minimize.
Right. No, I understand. I know that you've got that perception of me. I take your point. That's why I'm just being candid with you. I think that if Democrats do anything, your inclination is that was the right call because the alternative could have been worse.
I don't think that's true.
Well, that's why I'm asking you. How can you determine if the Democrats do a thing, even if it fails? What's to stop me from like playing Hutch's advocate, the Hutch's advocate, and saying, okay, yeah, Hutch, I know you're saying that this was a bad decision because it didn't succeed, but if they had played a different way, it could have failed even worse. It could have been even greater failure.
I mean, like I would have no problem telling you that I think like Kamala Harris. We talked about this like 1,000 times. That Kamala Harris made the Harris campaign made a huge mistake by ignoring the alternative media space, largely ignoring it.
How do we know?
I don't know.
She could have gone on Joe Rogan and made a bigger ass out of herself.
We would look at the demographic shifts, especially with like younger voters who are listening to like podcasts more than they are the news on CNN. We could point to like concrete, tangible metrics of where she slid in her support.
No, but that doesn't actually prove your point, right?
Because I don't know what Josiah's college background is here, but he's analyzing the opportunity cost in a very correct way. So Hutch sees that Kamala lost with a certain audience, and Hutch is saying, oh, she made a mistake. She should have gone and appealed to that audience by going on these shows. So I can count that as a loss. But what Josiah is saying is you could theoretically justify any path depending on how you frame it, because who's to say that Kamala maybe could have went on that podcast on Joe Rogan, or could have tried to do this, which they did try to do away. But Kamala could have gone on any one of these podcasts and done worse, or the question would have been really hard, or the reception would have been really bad. Who's to say? Why were we automatically assuming that was a mistake? Couldn't we automatically assume that it was a success? That, wow, Kamala could have gotten destroyed even harder if she would have went on those shows. Who's to say, right? How do we know? What we have to have some other guiding rod to figure out like what the correct choice would have been,
What you're providing is evidence that she failed. You're providing evidence that she failed to secure, support from key demographics. What if I said her going on Joe Rogan actually would have made it worse because she would have further alienated people? Because
you would have to get into more details about like the possibilities for it becoming worse, right? And it would have you would have to make like a compelling argument. Right now, we're just talking about like hypotheticals. And the argument that I'm telling you, like the reason why I think this is because Donald Trump and the Republicans had more support from the public back then. That's just a measurable thing.
I agree.
And since then, Donald Trump's support, particularly when we're talking about like independence, has just fallen off of a fucking cliff. It's dropped like 30 or 40 points. That is actually a huge difference. And that alone gives Democrats so much more leverage to choose now for this fight. And they're also choosing.
What fight though? What do we have leverage for? What do we have leverage for? What are we going to fight on now? Like, just imagine even the framing of this. Like, now that we've allowed Trump to run roughshod over the entire country and everything, Now that we've allowed them to do all these illegal things, all these horrible things, lead to all these people's deaths, all this economic harm, all this reputational hurt in the entirety of the United States, all of this, now these destroy all these things. Now we can fight on what? On bringing Medicaid back to pre One Big Beautiful Bill levels? That's our victory? Is that we managed to claw back the little piece of Medicaid? What the fuck? What are we fighting for?
A fight that is like really popular for that. Like healthcare is like one of their stronger positions, like one of their stronger issues, protecting healthcare or whatever.
So I would just say 2 points to that, just again, trying to game this out. Again, yeah, I totally agree with you that in terms of Trump's approval rating, the Republicans' approval rating is worse now than it was back in April and March. Yeah. So again, if knowing that to be true, and I agree that was always likely to be the case on probability that Trump was likely to be more popular or more unpopular as time went on, knowing that is likely to be the case, if we only had one shot and we could see the time horizon for what it is, I think that's a pretty credible argument. But why not do it both? Why not do it in March and then do it again in October?
I keep trying to explain why though. Like I feel like we're
we're looping because you actually have no evidence to disprove the idea that would have been a bad idea. You have no evidence to support that. We could have done both.
Would you agree?
You're claiming.
Would you agree?
Or why couldn't we have just waited until October of next year?
Let me just put it this way. Do you agree that if the Democrats would have swung for the fences back in March, and I don't even know what they would realistically hope to accomplish with negotiations at that point, do you agree with the idea that if they would have swung for the fences and then that was perceived as overreach, that it would make the current fight, which is over something that you and I agree is worth fighting for, the Medicaid cuts are substantial and they will result.
I think they were both. Just to be clear, I think both fights were worth picking. I think the Doge cuts, like trying to force Trump to heel on Doge, I absolutely think that was a fight worth picking. Just to be clear,
I'm just not sure that they had any realistic win conditions for picking a fight back then. But do you agree with the idea that if they would pick that fight back then and it was perceived as overreach, do you agree that right now they would be in a weaker position?
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, maybe. But if they, imagine if Democrats would have staked out a stronger position on Doge, would have fought it and said it was shit and garbage, and now it's passed and it is shit and it's garbage. It's almost like, did you lose the ability to say that you were right about that? Or did you lose the ability to bring that up as a big talking point or a win? I don't know. Republicans still cry about fucking immigration, even though Trump, now they say all of immigration was solved, but they used that issue forever. They used Hillary's emails forever. It seems like a Republican pick an issue and fight about it forever. They're like, when are Republicans thinking about, well, if we overplay our hand here, then we might fuck up our whatever in the future, you know? Like, when are they ever making this consideration? They're not, because what they're doing is they're fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. There's this really bad book now. I say bad. It wasn't bad at the time. Poker has changed a lot, especially in the past 2 decades. It's gotten a lot more mathematical. There's I'm saying it's solved, but it's just it's a very math heavy, very strategy heavy. It's just a lot of shit going on. But it used to be a little bit more feels based, a little bit more, this is my table image. You know, I'm a big shot, fucking big baller, fuck you. There was a poker player called Doyle Brunson, and he wrote a book called Super System. And Brunson's strategy to playing poker was, if I could summarize it in 2 big pieces. One is that this motherfucker is in every pot almost, okay? He's always raising, always coming in hot. Okay, he's a very aggressive table image, makes other people scared, and he's always putting other people in difficult spots to make decisions. He's always betting every hand almost. He's constantly masking the strength of hands through bets, aggressive plays. And what happens is through all of this playing, right, he picks up a lot of small pots. He has a lot of chips. He's always winning small pots. And every now and then, when a big hand comes up, he has the ability to decide whether or not he wants to go big and win the big guy, okay? And it's hard to tell the strength of his hand because of how aggressive he plays all the time. But I would say the second rule is he would always say, don't ever go broke in an unraised pot, right? So if you're heads up or it's one-on-one, nobody's raised, and some guy's like, I'm fucking all in over here, right? You don't call that. What? There's no money here. Why the fuck would you even risk it? That's retarded, right? But because Brunson is fighting, so also everything I'm telling you, this is old, okay? Because none of this works in poker now. You'll get annihilated by all the fucking math nerd PhD people that are fucking hand ranging and everything. Okay, it doesn't work anymore. But this was a strategy back in the day. Okay, and it worked. It worked because he's winning so many small pots that he's always winning, that he can afford to take a little bit more risk on these bigger pots. And it's hard to, because it's hard to know like what he has. Is he just being aggressive? Does he have some shit? And then he can win big money on big pots because it's harder for other people to gauge him. But this strategy of like him, like of always fighting so much on every hand and always picking up all these small wins means that if he picks a big fight, kind of, or if somebody else is like, oh, fuck it, you can have that, he can just walk away from it. He's still up. He's still good. He doesn't have to go all in here, right? But when he does want to go all in, when he does want to pick a big fight, if he wins those, my God, this motherfucker's got everything. The Republicans are never thinking we need to save our political capital so that we can expend it later on in this fight. The Republicans lie and fight on everything. No Epstein files for you. We're not going to sit this person. Fucking 90% of Trump's cabinet picks didn't even say that Biden won the 2020 fucking election. What the fuck? We're firing everybody that disagrees with us. We've got literally Project 2025 Bad Dragon dildos that everybody's required to sit on before cabinet meetings. Donald Trump, you'd be happy to come by the Department of Labor because we painted a giant fucking picture of your ass right on the fucking window for everybody to jerk off to every morning before we say our daily Trump prayer. Small fights everywhere. We're talking about trans people while we're renaming the Gulf of America or the Gulf. Fuck me. I'm going to kill myself. I can't believe I just fucking said that. While we're renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, we're talking about bombing Panama and Greenland. And then, like, what the fuck? They're fighting everywhere. This constant fear of like, we got to consider politically, what can we afford to do? Like Republicans are like, oh, fuck it, we can do fucking everything, I guess. And if they win somewhere, who the fuck cares? Or if they lose somewhere, who the fuck cares? Because they got 30 other fights going on. You just defended the status quo, but they're trying to get you in 30 other ways. I'm sorry, people have to understand this, I think.
Trump to heel on Doge, I absolutely think that was a fight worth picking, just to be clear.
I'm just not sure that they had any realistic win conditions for picking a fight back then. But do you agree with the idea that if they would pick that fight back then?
Like, think about what Republican Hutch would be saying, right? Okay, how are we going to be able to fight this government shutdown? We're trying to cut Medicaid. Like, what are we going to do? Like Medicaid might be a step too far. Americans need their health care, right? That's not what they were in a room and it's like, okay, fuck, all right? They're coming after the Medicaid cuts. We need to keep our big tax cuts. What are we going to do, guys? What are we going to do on this? Let's claim that they're trying to give $1.5 trillion to illegal immigrants, I guess, maybe, right? Can they even do that? I don't think so. Fuck it. Let's run with it. Let's just fucking go. Let's go. Mike, get out there, Johnson. Everybody, that's the new, let's go. 1.5 trillion, illegal immigrant healthcare. Boom. And that's the talking point. They don't even care. It's not even remotely rooted in reality. Because if they're lying and they get caught on, who the fuck cares? They're already on like 12 different lies. It doesn't matter.
And it was perceived as overreach. Do you agree that right now they would be in a weaker position?
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Maybe. You don't know. Man,
okay.
Don't concede.
Then how do you not believe that Chucky Boy was not, why would you say he wasn't vindicated then?
Because my position is not knowing then what we know now, or knowing then what we know now, that this fight just self-contained over healthcare when his approval rating is lower. I'm not saying that is as risky or more risky than the fight I wish Schumer would have also picked back in April. But that's not vindicating Chuck, in my opinion. Chuck said that it was too risky. Not that it was risky, or not even that it was more risky. It was too risky, and it's not even that it would backfire per se. His argument was at the time, the reason that he said that he wasn't going to support a shutdown is because it would give Trump extraordinary discretion during a government shutdown.
I think that's what he said, but I think he was more about the public perception. Like, I think that's
maybe it's both. But going on his publicly stated reasons, that actually
remember. It's not, when you think about public perception, okay, you're thinking like, okay, how is the public going to perceive things if we do a thing? That's not what the Republicans are thinking. Republicans are thinking, how should we make the public perceive this thing, right? Like in a world where Josiah is like, fuck it, dude, we should send the National Guard to places because like we fuck around, right? Who cares, right? Hutch would be thinking like, well, how would the public perceive that? Which in, a world of 15 years ago, that's a valid question. That's not what Trump thinks. They are like, let's fuck around and send the National Guard to places. Okay, well, how do we want the public to perceive it? I don't know. Let's just say we solve crime there. LOL, LeMayo. Wouldn't that be, yeah, fuck it. Let's do that. It's like, okay, cool. That's the message. And that's what they say, right? We sent the National Guard to DC. We sent the whoever to whatever place. Can they even arrest people? I don't think so. What happened? Well, everybody's going to restaurants now with $10 trillion more in investments, and we solved all the crime there. Okay. And that's enough? You like people believe that? Yeah. Okay. Cool, I guess. All right. Next thing.
cuts against Schumer, because you can make the case that Trump's discretion is more powerful now than it was back then, because he's gone through with a bunch of fucking rescissions and unconstitutional, well, I thought was unconstitutional clawbacks that the Supreme Court has tolerated, which also gets us back, of course, to the Supreme Court, which is like, yeah, they're like, yeah, sure, Congress has the power of the purse, but the president can effectively neutralize that by refusing to spend, federal monies on shit that's congressionally allocated. I actually could even make the case too that there is no win condition for Democrats here, at least legislatively, because let's say Trump comes to the table and negotiates something vis-a-vis healthcare or the ACH subsidies. What's to stop him from just doing a majority rescission cut after the shutdown? If Democrats, this is part of the problem. John Favreau and Ezra Klein are talking about this too, that anything that the Republicans agree to, we actually have no reason to trust them at all, because Trump has been reneging on this shit. Like, yeah, I'll refuse to spend the money on it, or we'll do, because rescission packages only require 51 votes. Yeah, we'll agree, get Schumer to the table, 60 votes to get through the filibuster. We pass this budget or this continuing resolution, and then in 2 weeks we'll go back with 51 votes and claw the shit back. I think they've done that already this year.
I think what's going on here, sweet brother Josiah, is that like I view politics similarly to how I view chess, in that your position really matters. I don't know how much you know about chess, but like your position, the pawn structure, your king safety, all of that, like whether or not you control the center, all this is just crucially important if you're going to set up some kind of a checkmate situation. And if you just aggressively start throwing every pawn, 4 squares down the board, and you just give up all your defenses, and you just launch a really kind of like uncoordinated attack with little to no thought, like a thoughtful chess player who knows what they're doing, they're just going to annihilate your position and then pick you off quite easily. Like, I think that it makes sense in politics, just like in a chess game, to try to anticipate where you think the board is going to be like 10, 15 moves away, which is really, really difficult, but you have to be forward thinking.
The problem is you're playing in time though, right? We don't have time to sit down and evaluate every single fucking decision. Right? You're playing speed chess with an opponent that has 20 pawns and 6 queens in his pocket. And so he moves a piece recklessly, and then you capture it intelligently, and he's already put 3 more pawns on the board. And you're sitting there trying to argue that he's breaking the rules while the clock is ticking on your side, and everybody in the audience thinks it's epic and based that this motherfucker has 13 pawns on the board somehow. And you might even be right, you might be correct, but at the end of the day, it doesn't fucking matter, because now the clock's run out, Trump is deploying the National Guard like an epic-based memer, and you're complaining that he broke the rules, and the Supreme Court says, I don't know, maybe we'll figure out in 6 years, and now everybody's laughing at you, and now you're a nerd, and everybody's beating you up, and it doesn't matter anymore.
And you have to always be considering the strength of your position. You have to be able to look at the board and evaluate, like, where am I weak, where am I strong? And then you address the weaknesses and try to advance your strengths. You and I felt like Econoboy and certainly Pisco, you guys are of the mind that the Democrats just need to be this like constant like fight mode. And I just don't think that aligns with the broad American electorate. I think you guys think that it's just as simple as like, okay, if it's only 30% of the country that supports court packing right now, it's just as simple as just like, we got to have the most charismatic people go out there, and we can just, shift public opinion like 30 points in a matter of like a couple years. And I just don't know how realistic that is. And and my frustration, and then I'll pass it over to you, but like my frustration with a lot of like Democratic voters right now is like, they just want to see a fight. And to me, that is like so dumb. Like, I don't care about like seeing a fight. I care more about like, well, when is the fight to our advantage? Like, when do we pick a fight where it actually creates?
But think about what he's saying. Hutch is contradicting himself without even realizing. It's like, all voters want to see is a fight, but we should pick the fight that matters. But what fights are you saying matter, Hutch? Well, the ones that voters care about. Okay, then pick one. If voters just want to see a fight, which I agree they do, then it doesn't matter what we fight on. Fight on something. That's what they want to say. They want to see people fight on something, because that's what it feels like Trump does, right? That's, at the end of the day, the whole essence of Trump is that it felt like a guy who wanted to break shit, that because he was the only one that was listening to the anguish of Americans, and it felt like we were heard, regardless of how fucking retarded he was or stupid he was. That was the feeling. That was like the core root feeling. It's the same thing that Bernie Sanders tapped into, or maybe AOC tapped into, and Donald Trump tapped into. Oh, this is a guy that realizes we're mad as fuck. We don't give a fuck about literally anything else happening. I don't care about the parliamentarian or the Constitution or any of this other gay shit. I just want to see a guy who seems mad and wants to fuck shit up. Then fucking go, right? It doesn't matter what he wanted to fight on. The fact they wanted to fight everything was fucking based, right? Now, that's not a good way to govern. It's not a good way to build a country or whatever, but it's politically effective. And Hutch he's almost fallen into this trap, this black hole of contradiction of like, well, we need to pick where we're going to fight, so it really matters what the voters think, and it's like the voters just want to see a fight, and that's frustrating. Well, that means they're giving you a blank check to fight on anything. Fight on something, pick something, and fight on it.
Leverage and actually build. Well, when is the fight to our advantage? Like, when do we pick a fight where it actually creates leverage and actually builds goodwill with voters and improves the standing of the party and is effective at foiling Trump? Like, those are the things. Like, how effective are your fights is the more important question. And this superficial desire to see a constant 24/7 fight on everything, I think, is wildly emotional and not rational at all.
I appreciate that. I could go through and I could say, and I could try to correct you that I don't want a 24/7 fight, and I don't want to fight on every issue. But that's your perception of me, and that doesn't matter. Okay, so we could quibble. I could talk about all the times that you and I have agreed, and we've been allies against people who are like, no, Democrats need to swing at everything everywhere all at once. But I understand the moment that that's your perception of me. I'm gonna give you my perception of you. That you are not proactive. Your default assumption is anything the Democrats do, anything, must be the right move or vindicated, because you can't entertain a counterfactual where taking a risk might have yielded a more beneficial result. You're doing it right here with Chuck Schumer. And again, we could do this with literally everything. Any Democratic success or failure. I could out Hutch you. I could just say, I need you to show me where that was actually the wrong decision. You can't disagree with that, Hutch. That was the right decision, because the alternative could have been worse. It could have been worse. And we could just come up with all sorts of bullshit hypotheticals about how that could have been worse. Kamala Harris was obviously the perfect candidate. Well, no, she couldn't have been because she lost. Well, I need you to show me where a better candidate would have won, or a different candidate would have won. I need you to show me where having a primary, a contested primary, would have been better than just simply anointing Kamala the Democratic nominee. I need you to
Hold on, I'm sorry. There's something that lets me mark off all the pictures I have so I can 100% this motherfucker. Did you see what they did here in this game? Excuse me, programmers. What's happening? Did they put a 0 for the O? If this is arranged alphabetically, roulette, SOS power, okay? But then second chance is next, right? So A, B, C, D, E, that's the next one. Why is the SOS? They put 0. I think they put zeros here instead of an O. What the fuck? And it's not arranged alphabetically like it's supposed to be. Uppercase? Oh, do you think it's like case sensitive marked? Oh, I'd have to scroll through and see if that is violated anywhere else. Okay, maybe. Because those don't look like zeros, but it might be a weird font. Saved, lucky. Okay. Wait. Compare the O here to shell on rush. I can't tell. This O looks wider, but it might just be my mind. Oh, but this might be a smaller font. Down there. Yeah, I don't know. I've never heard of anything arranging alphabetically by caps like that before. Take a screenshot and compare. Consult the table. No! I just crashed my game. Oh, no, I didn't. I guess I'm not doing anything besides writing shit down. Hold on. Ugh. Let me take a screenshot. It's not letting me because it knows it's bullshit now. Okay, I don't care that much then. Fuck it.
show me, because yeah, she lost, but it could have been a total fucking sweep. If we played anything else.
Your whole thing is hypothetical.
Wait a minute. You gave your perception of where I'm coming from.
That's fair.
And I'm giving you my perception of where you're coming from, right? Because I understand your frustration. I get it. And I hate that I'm giving you that impression that all I want to do in literally every instance is fight. I hate that because I don't think that's accurate. You're frustrating me because you give me the impression of somebody who never wants to fight and who only wants to fight when we're 1 inch away from success, which isn't going to happen, right? And who says,
how is that true? How is that true, though?
Hey, you stop it right now. You stop it.
We're fighting right now, and I support it wholeheartedly, bro.
No, wait a minute.
I never want to fight.
Did I just say? Did I just say?
Fight. I love the fight that we're doing right now. This is a phenomenal fight.
Listen. I think if Schumer kicked the can down the road again, if he had done what he did in April, in 2 months you would have been saying, yeah, that was the right move to make. That's what I think.
True.
I think you, to the extent that you support the fight. Wait a minute.
If Schumer did not pick the fight right,
I think
that is not true. We talked about it. We talked about it on the podcast, bro. I told you they should pick this fight right now.
You said on the podcast that they probably should have picked it back then. You supported it back then. Now you said he was vindicated.
Because
you changed your. Stop it. No, you stop it. You stop it. You change your mind based on what they do. Your default heuristic.
No, I proactively told you we should pick this fight before they picked it. I said this is the time to pick the fight.
You said it, but you said it back in March, bro. You were pissed at Schumer back in March.
Do I not get to change my mind if I get some kind of updated?
He's missing the word you're looking for is opportunity cost. What Josiah is saying is that no matter what happens, as long as the outcome is good, you're going to think it was a good decision. But that's not true. The outcome could have been a lot better. right? Is what he's saying. Yeah.
I understand. What I'm saying
I saw
is
the strength of their fight right now, it contextualized Schumer's decision back then, and it made me think like, well, he might have been right.
I understand. What I'm saying is I believe that if Schumer had not picked a fight in October, you would be saying in December or January that was the right move to make. No. Yes. Okay, that's fine. 100%. That's fine. I'm giving you my perception of you.
Your perception is completely erroneous. Like I was on the record saying for like months leading into this moment right now that this is a fight that they have to pick. Like especially like over healthcare. I said I think I even said I would be massively disappointed and shocked if they didn't pick this fight right now. If they would have said like no, now's not the right time, I would have 1000% been right there alongside you saying this is fucking crazy. Like that is actual fecklessness. There's no way that I would have like weaseled out of that by saying, well, I don't know. There would have been no sense to that whatsoever.
Okay.
And I remember even when we had the conversation back in March, I remember even saying like, maybe like Chuck might be right, but it just feels like politically the wrong decision for him to make right now. But
I agree that you were less resolute. I agree that you were less resolute back in March than you were before this fight. I do agree with you there. Yeah. So to finish, as I was saying, the Supreme Court, I think you recognize is an existential threat. And I don't think that you have much that you will permit much by way of margin of error in trying to address that, because you say, I think you can just swing 30 points in 3 years. I specifically did not make that claim. I said we should try. And this is what I'm saying. This is where we're just destined to do this forever. I'm not going to sit here and go back and litigate every claim you made. You gave me your broad conception of your frustration of where I'm coming from. I could just as easily say you misrepresented me because you just said that I thought that I can swing public opinion in 30 points in 3 years.
Well, that's what it would take. That's what it would take, right?
I understand. And I specifically said, I'm not sure that can be done, but I think it's worth trying, right? You, on the other hand, seem to offer very little room by way of creating circumstances for victory, that those circumstances have to effectively be handed to us and we simply exploit it.
Yes.
And that's just not going to happen. I'm not convinced it's going to happen.
Because
I think the politicians don't simply react to public sentiment. I think they shape public sentiment in part as well. I think it's a feedback loop. And I think the thing is, I'm at the point, and I've been at this point, and I feel that the threat that we're under now from this decision by the court.
Do you see, right? He's saying in more eloquent words, right, that Republicans don't sit and wait for the gas tank to be full to go to Applebee's, right? They go to the gas station, they fill it up. They create the conditions for success. Success isn't always about waiting for the correct opportunity to come about, but it's like you're creating the environment so that those opportunities are more bountiful. They happen more often.
Further vindicates my position is this is something that we should have been investing political capital in much sooner. I think that we should have made court reform, court expansion, reining in this partisan court.
Do you think Obama should have campaigned on legalizing gay marriage when he was in the primary against Hillary?
I can't remember what the polling was at the time. I don't know if he should have campaigned on it. I think he should have over time, I think, expressed support for it, or had his vanguards. I think Biden was the first major politician to come out and do it. But here's the thing, not to get crass and throw gay people under the bus, but I think the threat posed by the Supreme Court is more existential than lack of gay marriage.
No, I understand, but
I don't think it's an apples.
I'm just making the point that I think everybody knew that Obama,
Like the funny thing is that Hutch is technically falling into the same trap again. I'm not saying that Hutch is necessarily wrong, but that his decision-making apparatus needs adjustment. Because Hutch is trying to say, should he ran on gay marriage? And Hutch is going to say, well, obviously that would have been bad because look, he won. And it's like, well, hold on, you're very results-oriented here. What if he would have ran on gay marriage? What if he would have been even more popular? Who's to say? It's hard to say because it seemed like there was more of an appetite in the U.S. public, for gay marriage. It passed, and for the most part, it's kind of been untouched. Who's to say that it was a good idea for him to do it? You're very results-oriented, saying just because he won the election, every decision he made was a good one. That's not necessarily true.
Supported gay marriage, but took a
100%. It was just a public posture,
right? Yeah. And I think that was the correct move.
Maybe
I think that was. I think it was smarter to wait to try to pounce on that. He eventually did pounce on that, but gay marriage, support for gay marriage, had been steadily rising for years before he took position. The trend line really kind of stayed consistent. Like after he endorsed it, it just kept going up, but that trend had already been going. That's just a good example of picking your fight.
Do you think, so I guess to wrap this up, do you think Obama helped shape opinion on gay marriage, or you're saying he was just simply reactive? He waited until the culture moved at a point where he could strike.
He objectively waited. Okay. Yes. He did.
Now I'm asking you again. I appreciate you bringing that example because this is where I feel like I'm getting mixed messages. So is that what you want Democrats to do with the Supreme Court? Just wait?
In a very, essentially, yes. Yeah.
Okay, right. So,
not necessarily wait totally passively. I think there are ways that you can start injecting certain kind of messaging to sort of start shifting things, to try to influence things that the public moves towards your position. But it has to be kind of subtle. It has to be kind of shrewd. It has to be done very carefully because the risk of it just blowing up and totally backfiring, I think in this moment when they have power, is pretty substantial. At minimum, Josiah, I don't think we should be talking about this. I might be willing to entertain your strategy
in private,
if we win the midterms. If we go to the midterms and we still don't have a majority after that, then I don't know what the right move is.
Well, and I want to be clear. I totally agree with you that now is, I just want to be very clear about this. I don't think now is the most optimal time to be having this conversation. Okay. I think it was in 2023 and 2024. I think the second the immunity decision came out, that's when I would have been like, okay. Because again, reportedly, this was Biden's whole position too, which is why he finally fucking came out for shit that he'd never endorsed before. The immunity decision is what tipped him over. I think Democratic institutionalists...
We were in a pretty weak position in 2023. I mean,
so
I don't understand the logic. We were in a pretty weak position in 2023. Where did he have the leverage to... You know, you wanted an unpopular president who people thought was demented to lead the charge. Like, I'm not seeing what you're seeing.
Why did they bring it up in 2024? He was even weaker in 2024.
Well, they brought up reforms. They didn't bring up packing the court.
Yeah.
Hutch, and again, maybe this, I'm happy to disaggregate this. We need we absolutely, in my opinion, need court expansion, but we need all kinds of court reform. If you want to come back to me and say, Josiah, on this, and this, we can fucking shout from the rooftops right now, but this other thing, we need to hold off. That's at least a compromise we can get to. So I'm just putting all in the blanket.
That was my position. That is my position. If you want to have Democratic leadership go out there starting today talking about, and in fact, I think they already do this. I think this already is their position that they want to do court reforms. I don't know if it's like a central pillar of the party. I don't know.
It's not. Right. They've been public about that. That's my point.
That's fine. But we need to disentangle court reforms with court packing. Court packing is the Tsar Bomba of like options when it comes to the courts.
Do you know what Republicans did when the Senate Judiciary Committee talked about having a binding code of conduct for the justices back in 2023? The Republicans went ape shit on this. Oh my God, they're trying to interfere with the court. Democrats are trying to rig and interfere with the court because
but it wasn't court packing though. There is a difference.
I do understand, but what I'm saying
is a significant escalation that goes well beyond court reforms. It's like a 10 if court reforms are a 3.
What would you say?
No, yeah, I understand that, but what I'm saying, like, it's just
arguably, I think you could make this argument. Arguably, court packing is less extreme than McConnell refusing to hear Obama's Supreme Court pick, because this is like an express power given to the President of the United States, is the right to nominate a Supreme Court pick and then have that pick heard and confirmed by the Senate. And McConnell said, no, you don't get one. That's if whatever court packing is, which traditionally I'm not in favor of. I still don't even know, right? Whatever court packing is, it's less extreme than that.
It's just a fundamental disagreement. I think that because Republicans are going to pounce on, like the fucking Intel thing, like of Trump, taking, what is it, a 5 or 10% stake in Intel from the federal government's perspective. Just objectively the most fucking communist policy we've seen in the United States in decades. Don't you like? And I guess this is where I'm different. At that point, I'm like, okay, not still saying that we shouldn't phrase things carefully, but I don't really give a fuck about what Republicans accuse us of. Nor should I think any Democratic politician moving forward, because
it's not about that. It's just about the center, bro. That's it. I mean, it doesn't matter like what MAGA, like MAGA has demonstrated that they can kind of.
I know that inherently on principle you don't care what Republican politicians say or do either. But why do you think Republican politicians say that? Why do you think they turn federal Obama, Biden?
Before I even get to that question, I've heard this logic, this exact same logic, to justify why defund the police. We shouldn't have adopted different messaging. They use the same logic where it's like, well, the Republicans are just going to call you extremists anyway, so you don't really need to actually, be thoughtful about your rhetoric. I think this is really stupid.
No, that's why I said. Well, that's why I said.
Yeah,
right?
but defund the police sucked. That was a bad idea.
That's not what I said.
That was a bad idea.
I just fucking said. Not that you shouldn't be careful with your words.
You should be careful.
Use this
but this is being careful.
Do you see what you're doing? You're kind of talking out both sides of your mouth.
Oh my God, bro. No, I'm saying that. We'll skip to the end. I think Republicans say this shit about Kamala and Biden and Obama all being communists because they're trying to actively shape the narrative, not just for the right, but also for the center.
Yep.
And I think that, and I think that Democrats are not simply obligated to just accept the narrative as it is. I think that they can shape the narrative, and I think that they should also care a bit less about what Republicans have to say. I think that they should be more proactive than reactive. And I think this idea that we have to shape our approach based on what Republicans accuse us of being is just bullshit at this point. I don't think it's gotten us much by anywhere, because here you have Trump actively engaging in the sort of policy that he would have accused Kamala of with great fucking success a year ago, and he's doing it shamelessly. And I think their shamelessness is their superpower, and I think we should try to adopt some of that approach in our own politics, our own campaigning, to the extent that we're able. But as far as the court thing is concerned, which we got off on this fucking tangent. As far as the court thing is concerned, I still think that.
Did you agree with me that you probably shouldn't start like publicly talking about
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
The midterms, right?
Right. That's what I was saying. I think we should have done this earlier. And you asked, well, why earlier? And because I think that they were at their nadir in terms of approval rating after the Dobbs decision.
Even at their nadir, though, even at their nadir, the public opinion about this issue is nowhere close to what they needed it to be to justify doing it. Like if you do something like that with 30% of support, I mean, you're gonna get punished massively by voters. That's the risk. Like the backlash is always a risk. And so,
that Republicans supported Ukraine in 2020, when the invasion happened or whatever, 2023, right? Israel Palestine was 2022, or am I mixing the two of those up for October 7th? The initial support, Rubio and everybody was out there talking about how important it was that we that we support 2022, how important it was that we support our Ukrainian allies. Like all these Republicans on record. And then Trump came out and he said something. Trump didn't think like, well, I wonder where my party is. Trump reversed course on that like immediately. And everybody came out and changed their mind on, oh, I guess fuck Ukraine. Like,
this idea that I always think that the Democrats should wait is just wrong. Like, picking the healthcare fight made perfect sense in 2009 after the election was had, and we had a brief window of time where we had enough votes to actually do stuff like that. And the fights that Biden picked when he was president and he was negotiating with Manchin and Sinema, I think he did that really intelligently.
When did Democrats again? I'm confused. When did Democrats ever make a mistake by acting or not acting? Because again, I take your point. I understand what you're trying to say. Hey, listen, I support action. I support action when Democrats take it. Well, again, that goes to, I think your default is, because you move positions on this with Schumer, and I understand, well, it's because I've got new information. I think a lot of it is your default heuristic is what they do is correct. And I think a lot of what your positions are shaped around that.
In terms of the leadership, like the leadership structure?
Sure.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, sure. Like, again, I'm still, I love you, buddy, but I'm convinced. I genuinely believe that if Schumer had not picked this fight, I think in December, you would be saying, well, he's vindicated. He should do it next time.
No, you're assigning me either
by what
incompetence
metric,
or bad
though?
faith. I'm not sure.
It's not incompetence, and it's not even bad faith. I just think that your default is one of hesitation and reaction.
It's just not
like you said, my
considering the
default is
opportunity
aggression.
cost, I think.
Your position was, unless I am mischaracterizing you, your position was that I want to pick fights all the time, that all I want to do is fight. My position is the opposite, which is that I think that your instinct is to just wait longer. And to the extent that you do support democratic, to the extent that you support democratic action, it's you always point retroactively, right?
What are you what are you accusing me of here? Say that again.
Your default is to default to what the Democratic leadership does.
I try to evaluate things independently. I just try to look at a situation and I just try to ask myself, like, what are all the angles that I would have to consider if I was in the leadership position right now? Like my big problem with leadership in the party has to do more of like branding than anything else, because I do think that in terms of Democratic leadership, they have demonstrated themselves to be quite competent. I don't even know how you could disagree with that. Like Pelosi and Schumer and Jeffries, they have demonstrated time and time again that they were insanely effective in their roles. Like Jeffries, he has extracted concessions from Republicans multiple times. The guy's never even been House Speaker. Like every fight he's ever picked, he's kept his caucus unified in that fight.
On what?
Like Schumer,
I don't
say what you
know
will about like he's cringe and he says stuff like aroused or whatever. But like, are you seriously telling me that Schumer has not been effective in his role as like Democratic leader in the Senate?
What have we gotten with Schumer?
No, I think that in terms of like the legislative aspect, yeah.
Wait, legislatively?
I'm talking about like his role.
Are you talking about
as the
when
Senate
Biden
leader?
was
He's
there,
done
or?
a fantastic job over the years. Don't even give me
the rules are different now.
What about Biden? Right?
Biden was phenomenal when it came to.
Oh yeah, and I agree, right? But right, but there's more than just the legislative angle, right? I totally agree with you that when it comes to whipping votes, I mean Pelosi's unparalleled.
It's not just about in terms of strategy. It's about like when to pick your fights. Like Jeffries he's not tried to do a shutdown every single time, right? He's picked his battles, and every time
he actually tried to do the shutdown back in March.
Well, I think Schumer was giving him cover. Like I think Schumer threw himself on the sword there.
I understand. And again, we're kind of he says one thing, but you think that there's like I know he says that it was because.
Well, why would both of them throw themselves on the sword at that point? Like, why would they both?
Maybe no. I guess my point is, I think it's possible that they just had a legitimate disagreement about. I think Jeffries wanted the shutdown then, right, and Schumer didn't, and then they both wanted it now, right? And you say that they're both really effective. So how do you square that circle? Like now you're saying Schumer's vindicated. Well, it would have been a bad idea for the shutdown, but didn't Jeffries want the shutdown back then too?
Well, I just told you a little while ago that I mean you acknowledged that if Schumer would have picked that fight and then the voters would have perceived that as overreach, it would have hurt the fight now. And so I feel like if you admit that, you kind of have to take my position, but you're not for some reason.
I don't know.
Do you think Jeffries takes that position?
I think Schumer, like there was no political reason to have both of them like fall on the sword, and I think Schumer knew he was going to get a bunch of shit for that. But he's the one that like volunteered his tribute in that moment, and I think that there was no like. Let's say both of them agreed that they should wait to pick the fight. Like, does it make sense for both of those people to take the heat? Probably not. Right? Like,
well, I mean, there again, did we just do a counterfactual? Actually, no, it would have been the stronger thing to do, Hutch, because it would have sent a unified message to the party that, hey, listen, as unpopular as you think this might be, the two most high-ranked Democrats in either chamber of the Senate are actually unified on this front, which is not the time. And maybe that would have been more persuasive to the Democratic base to say, hey, listen, it's not just Schumer acting rogue here. I, too, Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader in the House, agree with Schumer that now is not the time for a shutdown. And maybe that would have been more persuasive.
Well, you said a little while ago that everything that I say is always on hypotheticals, right? Like you mentioned that like my arguments always rest on hypotheticals, like hypothetically it could have been worse and blah, blah, blah. But like your whole thing is hypotheticals. Like I feel like your hypothetical position 99% of the time is that 100%. Is that with the right amount of leadership, we can manipulate American voters and change public sentiment.
I'll back to it.
What is the precedent for this, by the way? Like I feel like all throughout modern history, when we look at presidents, they do go with kind of where the public is. Except, I mean, Donald Trump is a bit of a wild card, right? But like apart from him, like this is just a normal thing for presidents to like, move with the political winds. Like when was there a time where presidents like put their thumb on the scale and just massively influenced the entire country to move substantially on some issue? Can you think of like anything?
Not off the top of my head, no.
That's because it's not normal. That's not common. Like it's way more common for politicians to, or especially presidents, right? When we're talking about the entire country, to sort of meet voters where they're at. And I feel like this is like this big philosophical difference that I have with you and I have with like a lot of other people, because I feel like a lot of people on the left, they have this view that the American public is just very kind of easily manipulated. Like that's where this whole idea of like just send Bernie into West Virginia comes into play. Is because people think that like all you need is like a charismatic.
Do I agree with that?
No, I know. I know you don't, but I'm just saying it's the same. Right. It's the same. So is it possible
that my position is a bit more nuanced, and that my position is that not that presidents can single-handedly alter public opinion in massive ways, because you're right, maybe they couldn't. I don't have any examples of that on hand. Maybe it's possible that my position is a bit more nuanced, which is that both the public and public leaders shape public viewpoints and public opinion, and that it's not just the public, it's not just leadership, and that it's a kind of a complicated mess, and that political capital you invest to spend and not just simply wait for the opportune moment. Sometimes you have to take risks, sometimes you have to try to create the opportune moment. I mean, again, it's like anything else, right? It's like any sort of investment. You try to wait for the best time you possibly can, but you can't wait for a guarantee.
But sometimes, I guess what I'm saying is like sometimes politics is kind of waiting for your opponent to make a mistake. There was this chess grandmaster who was like the world champion for many years, this guy named Petrosian, and he really frustrated a lot of chess players because he was super defensive. Like his whole style was just creating the strongest possible position he could, and then as soon as his opponent made a mistake, he would just dismantle their entire position. That's how this guy was champion for like years, and it was a totally different kind of way of playing chess when he first kind of introduced it. But that's kind of what politics is sometimes. It's just it is like pulling your punches and waiting to pick a fight until you actually have enough.
Yeah, but there's an agreed upon set of rules that everybody's working on in that game. If really people are changing the rules, you
should pounce and like use all that. What political capital do we have right now? Like Democrats, like we don't really have like much of anything. Right?
How do we not have anything? I thought you said they're getting more and more popular.
I think you're going to see the Democratic Party's numbers go up as a result of this fight. I think you are going to see like more of the Dem voter base be like, yeah, there's the fight I'm looking for. But I think that like you choosing this spot right now was politically shrewd. I just have to come to that conclusion.
I want you to know how passionate I was about this, how you caught me in a moment. As I told you in a recent text message, I'm trying to spend my time more wisely. And here I am. I've only cranked out 2 videos for the day, and I'm choosing to spend time with you. This is the problem. Oh, no. I have an addiction problem. I'm addicted to you.
I get it.
You don't fucking get it. You don't get it, because this is like, you have found it. You've hit that fucking sweet spot where this is streaming. I can't do this. Like I can just sit here for 7 hours and go back and forth with you.
Wait, can I flip it around on you right now? And ask you like, when has there been a time where Democrats picked their battles, like picked their fight wisely, that you supported? Like, when has there been a time where they were strategic about it? I support this fight. I 100% supported this fight before and after. I just wish they also would have done it in April as well. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. No. The question is when they picked their battles. Like, this was them picking their battles. So you don't support that. You don't support waiting until now. Like, so yeah. When has there ever been a moment where they chose not to fight, where you said, okay, that was smart?
Chose not to fight, and when it was smart. Could you give me some examples, and I can tell you whether or not I agreed with them or agree with them?
Like, I feel like the Democrats, they could have moved to.
You gave me the gay marriage example, and I agree with that one.
Okay, well, there's that. I mean, like, but I'm saying, like, if we go back to like 2018, they take the House. Honestly, they had like 5 rationales that they could have used to initiate impeachment proceedings right away. Firing Comey should have been an impeachable moment, but they waited until
they didn't have a majority in. No. You're talking about
when they won in 2018, and the new Congress was sworn in 2019. They did not impeach Trump right away. They didn't start initiating impeachment stuff until like August or September after the Ukraine stuff was revealed.
Yeah. No, I don't remember ever getting upset for them waiting on impeachment. Never actually occurred to me at the time, because impeachment just was so uncommon until they impeached him in 2019, late 2019, over the Ukraine ship. So that never crossed my mind. I don't recall ever taking a position.
Joe Biden picking his battles when it came to negotiating legislation.
Can you again give me like some specific examples?
I think the first 2 years, right? Like not fighting not really waging like a public fight for $15 an hour minimum wage. We've talked about that 1,000 times, right?
Yeah, I think that I agreed with you on the minimum wage thing, because he could have. I think that was one of the things that you and I first started engaging with when you and I like first started talking. Well,
your whole thing was that you wanted him to get caught trying, even though he knew that he couldn't win that fight.
Well, no, I felt that he could have. Well, I thought my position was that the $15 minimum wage thing wouldn't have passed because Manchin would have voted it down. Like they still needed the support, and they just didn't have the votes for it.
Yeah, they didn't have the votes, but you and the rest of the pod boys were saying, like Live and Learn pod boys, you were saying that there was value in getting caught like trying.
Did I say that about the $15 minimum wage?
I thought so. I thought that was like the whole thing.
I didn't have as much input there, so I probably felt that way.
I don't recall like getting upset about him not going after the parliamentarian, because you were the one who persuaded me on that. You said, well, my position was, I think initially my position was, from what I remember, that they should have overruled the filibuster, and I think you made the point, or overruled the parliamentarian. You made the point that wouldn't have made a big deal.
No, but when the Vanguard boys came on, I think you were trying to find like a middle ground position between mine and theirs. And you said
the parliamentarian on the $15 minimum wage, because I thought when I spoke up, the few times I spoke up,
you didn't support like firing the parliamentarian, but you were saying like it might have made strategic sense to Biden to go out there and still like tell people like I want to get this done, knowing that he would fail, because then it would just look like he was fighting. Like that
on the $15 minimum wage or on a separate issue.
I thought it was like a bevy of issues. I don't think it was just one issue.
So the one, like the Voting Rights Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, I definitely supported Biden, ring the bell about that. Build Back Better. I think that he should have still vociferously came out and said, I want this passed, I want this passed. But he got Manchin, was it Manchin or Sinema, who supported the Inflation Reduction Act? Was it both of them or just one of them?
No, they both supported it. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was able to secure a lot of concessions, a lot of the climate aspects of Build Back Better in that. I thought that was successful, but I don't recall ever saying that Biden should have picked a fight over the $15 minimum wage. I don't think that's an example. But like just in general, of him like continuing to speak out, like, yes, I support Build Back Better. Yes, I want to see Build Back Better pass. The John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Those are examples.
If we go back even further, like Obama, not picking a fight about like codifying Roe is like another really good example of what I'm talking about how sometimes it makes strategic sense to explicitly not pick a fight, to publicly not pick a fight. And that's just like that's the kind of thinking that I'm thinking about.
Like no one is saying that we should fight on every single thing. I'm making it sound like that.
There have been times, like I agree in principle that I felt Biden should have been fighting more, gotten caught more. Like one thing that he did that Peaceful and I disagree on. I thought it was good that after he tried the immigration agenda and it failed, that he started to issue executive orders, basically daring the court to strike him down. They were likely unconstitutional. That's part of the reason that he didn't want to go the executive order route. But once the bipartisan legislation fell through, he basically tried to get caught trying by way of executive order. I think that was the right thing to do. I think in terms of his rhetoric, again, just talking about Build Back Better or the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, I think those were things to stake the ground on. But I don't think $15 minimum wage was one. I don't think Obama gay marriage was one, just again because at the time it was still so socially conservative. I don't think that even a majority supported gay marriage at the time that Barack Obama was campaigning for the office, and it may have cost an election. I don't know. That was 2008. I was 17 years old, not paying attention to politics at the time. So
I think the codifying Roe thing is like the perfect example of what I'm talking about, because he got a lot of flack from people on the left, because what happened was he came out, it was like 3 or 4 months into his administration, and by that point, they were already like balls deep in the ACA negotiations, and he came out with his public statement saying that codifying Roe was not a legislative priority for him. When he ran on codifying Roe, he explicitly ran on like I want to pass a bill to actually do this thing, and then he gets elected 4 months later. He says the thing, and people were pissed off about. He still gets flack for that. That was I've seen people criticize, but that was like the perfect example of what I'm talking about, because he had to do that in order to get the ACA passed, and he just,
I can't. Again, I don't. That was with the 60. That was like in 2009, 2010, right?
That was 2010 or 2009 when he came out with the statement.
2009. Okay, so again, I wasn't paying attention closely at the time, so I don't think I had a strong opinion about it at the time. Again, in hindsight, that's not a hill I've ever died on or anything I've ever advocated for, because I recognize that at the time it wasn't like he was off by a couple. Like there were just, if I remember correctly, like dozens of members in the House on the Democratic side that were pro-life that would have never codified Roe into law and would have never taken that risk politically anyway, because at the time Roe was good law, right? And there was no direct threat to it. So again, all I can say is that in my years of political commentary, I've never taken the position that I'm aware of that Obama should have spent political capital on codifying Roe.
I'm not accusing you of that. I'm just saying, like, these are the kinds of decisions in politics that I think that I value just as much as when a party, sticks their flag in the sand and picks a fight. Like, I think the ability or the skill of knowing when to retreat and when to pick the fight, these are equally important skills to have.
And again, I
totally feel like you want to nurture just the one side.
I understand. I agree. And I understand. I feel the same way about you. I feel like you want to nurture just the one side. And this is part of our Joker Batman ongoing eternal tension is you think I'm more on one side and I think you're more on the other.
But you haven't articulated a coherent, communicable vision of how we would even get to court packing. Like you're kind of not concerning yourself with the finer details. Your prescription here just assumes that we can drastically change public opinion in a really short time frame.
All I can do is repeat for probably the 4th or 5th time, once again, that I don't think that we can swing 30 points in 3 years or anything like that. But I felt that we have to acknowledge that public officials and political leaders can help shape public opinion, and perhaps we should spend more political capital in trying to warm the public up into the need for not just court reform in the form of.
But you can do that without specifically pushing, without specifically declaring that the party platform adopt expanding the court as one of their policy. You can help change public opinion. You can help shift public opinion without saying we are going to expand the court when you give us power again.
And we shape public opinion without stating what we want to do. I don't know how we do that, but if in terms of codifying, in terms of not putting it as the Democratic Party agenda, I mean, I'm open to that. I just don't know how you do it surreptitiously without saying that this is something we need to do.
Well, you lay the groundwork, you lay the foundation first,
right. And again, I don't want to ask you what the foundation is, because I think you're going to be like, that's not fair or whatever. I don't know what you think the foundation is, but I just don't think the foundation has been poured at all. I don't even know if we have a sketch of a blueprint for the house, let alone the pouring of the concrete for the foundation. I just think we got to get moving on it. I think we should have been moving on it years ago. And I think that we are where we are because this court is so partisanly lopsided.
And, I don't even understand that logic, though, because I feel like Democrats have been talking about the courts being fucked for years. Hillary Clinton ran on a constitutional amendment for the what am I thinking of? voting stuff or the lobbying, Citizens United, like Joe Biden was running on, how shitty the court was in 2020. He didn't come out in favor of like packing the court, but I think he ran on like appointing a commission to look into reforms, which is what he did. And then, he relayed what the commission came up with, right? But like, I'm not
actually, I don't know. I think he stuffed it in a drawer. I don't think he ever made a public announcement or any sort of public spectacle about what the commission came up with. He certainly made a commission or spectacle during the campaign that one of the first things he would do is have a commission about it. But no, I think he quietly released the report and then moved on.
But do you see what I'm saying? No, like I understand like, okay, we got to get the leadership and just full court press from the entire party pushing on, like how fucked the court is, and then you seem
that's where I disagree. I'm not saying that it's enough to complain about how fucked the court is. I think that's kind of your point. Is that's the foundation, is talk about how bad the court is. No, I think we got to move one step further and say, hey, the court is bad, and it's so meaningfully bad that we're proposing major reforms to the court itself in the form of X, Y, and Z. And here is 1, 2, and 3 reasons why, and here's how it directly impacts you. I think that I'm not asking for Democrats to simply complain about the court, because I acknowledge that we've done that, and we probably do it more, I guess, but and more consistently. But we've certainly loudly complained about the court. I think it's time to loudly complain about the court, and make it more personal, and move in the direction of, and here's what we're going to do about it if you put us back in power. Since
I thought, well, right, but when you. So you are saying, like, here's what we're going to do when you put us in power. You are saying that they should run on, like, packing the court, right? I thought that's what the conversation was all about, Josiah.
I thought, no, well, you were the one who said that we shouldn't, that we can't talk about it. My position is I don't know how we can lay the foundation without talking about it. My position is, yes, I do think that Democratic politicians need to talk about expanding the court. You're saying, no, we need to we can lay the foundation for it in an indirect way. And my position is, if you can show me a way to get to court expansion, which we both agree is necessary, without talking about it, but while simultaneously like shaping public opinion or trying to shape public opinion in that direction, I'm all ears. Like the reason that I think we should talk about expanding the court is because I think we need to expand the court, and I don't see a way to expand the court without talking about expanding the court. You seem to be agreeing that we need to expand the court, but that we shouldn't talk about it to expand the court. And I'm saying, well, that's fine. I guess we don't have to talk about it, but we need to expand the court and we need to make that happen. So how can we do that without talking about it?
I don't think that logic always works in politics. Like I think we should talk about expanding the court because we should expand the court. That's the same logic could have been used for Barack Obama. I think he should run on, codifying gay marriage because we should codify gay marriage. But the consideration was back then was that it would have been tough. Maybe it would have been a liability for him in a tough primary for him to take a position that was not majority support. So he didn't take that position. So like it's the same exact logic with packing the court.
No,
which has lower approval ratings right now than gay marriage did back then.
But this is where I get confused. This is where I get confused. Earlier I asked you, I said, okay, so just to be clear, you agreed that Barack Obama, when it came to gay marriage, was basically just 100% reactive and just waited. And you said yes. But then when I've asked you about the Supreme Court, you're like, no, I'm not asking that we do. I'm not saying that we should do what Obama did for gay marriage. But that's what you're saying.
No, explicitly, that's what I did say. I said you need a mandate from the public if you're going to make a big push for packing the court.
Okay, so when it comes to packing the court, to be super clear then, Democrats can't and shouldn't try to shape public opinion because it's just too risky and the time's not right.
I did it. No, we need to. There's a difference between trying to shift public opinion about like possibly like pushing a public to be more open to expanding the court. There's a difference between that and then running on.
Did they talk about anything different for the rest of this?
But did Obama do that with gay marriage?
Yeah. 100%.
What did Obama do with gay marriage that is analogous here? Give me the
in 2008, when he was running in a primary against Hillary Clinton, he took a position of I support civil unions but not gay marriage.
Got it.
Because that was what the majority of the country felt like at the time, and then it was pretty close to the Supreme Court decision that he came out in favor of gay marriage. And by that point, the political winds had already shifted. So like it was just about a majority or a slight majority of support in the country by the time he took that position.
What did he do to help shape public opinion?
I really don't know. I don't know. I think a lot of that. I think a lot of that came from media. To be honest with you.
Got it. Okay. No, but that's fine. I'm fine with that. So what I'm trying to understand though is, are you saying we should adopt the Obama playbook for expanding the Supreme Court? And it seems like you're telling me yes, but also no. And I'm genuinely confused by that.
I mean, you should, if you're trying to do politics smartly, you should basically always adopt that policy. Like if you're a president, why would you come out like strongly?
No, I understand. Right. So there are two parts to this, right? There's the candidate coming out and campaigning on it, and then there's the shaping public opinion about it, right? There's two parts. My understanding is you think Obama certainly didn't do the first, and maybe he didn't even do the latter, which is try to shape public opinion like in a Machiavellian way somehow. But you think with the Supreme Court, we should adopt half the Obama playbook, which is not to campaign on expanding the court, but you think we should try to shape public opinion about expanding the Supreme Court.
Yo.
Hey, what's up, Aaron?
What's up?
We were having a conversation about
solving the world's problems.
I figured.
It's been 24 hours and also 5 minutes.
In a very broad sense, we're talking about the strategy of like should presidents okay, hold on. Should presidents meet people where they're at, like meet voters where they're at, or should presidents use their position to try to
Aaron is going to side more with
big changes?
Josiah and
this kind of analogous to the stuff that we've disagreed with on the past about like the role of the presidency. I don't know if we've specifically disagreed, but yeah.
Like, what is the topic? Because I was realizing that we never actually like set a formal topic. You approached me in DMs like, hey, I saw you in Live and Learn chat. Let's debate. But then later I was like, oh, this topic is evergreen. And I sent that to you like 6 a.m. after I streamed all night. And I was like, I don't even know what topic I'm referring to.
I think you were in the Live and Learn chat when we were discussing like the Ezra Klein strategy, which I guess is a little adjacent to what we're talking about. The Ezra Klein strategy of like, should we run pro-life Democrats to expand our majority? I feel like you were in the chat. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say real quick, I don't want this like to be a 2v1, and quite frankly, I need to get back to doing content. So just if you want to like bring Aaron in on this and on the Supreme Court thing, and then I can fuck off in just a few minutes, that might be the best like natural segue.
Okay, yeah, let's do that then.
Aaron.
Josiah.
you agree that the Supreme Court is fucked, needs to be expanded and reformed,
Supreme
right?
Court is indeed fucked. I mean, if you're asking me my true ideological position, the Supreme Court should be abolished pretty much, to the point that it be replaced with an institution that has like the highest legal authority, but in no way, shape, or form resembles the current institution that we have. I think it's a very undemocratic institution in the first place. That's not happening anytime soon. So in the meantime, before people like me grab the mic and say, let's get rid of it, we should probably listen to the people that are like, maybe we just reform it a little bit as a treat.
Yeah, Hutch and I are in our ongoing Batman Joker dilemma of he thinks I'm too aggressive and I think he's too reactive. And so we were using the example of basically how do we. Hutch doesn't want us to actively campaign on expanding the court, but he's open to Democratic politicians and trying to help shape public opinion to make them more amenable to court expansion. And Hutch, I don't want to misrepresent you. Is that a fair assessment?
Democrats right now should not run on, we're going to expand the court if you give us power.
Right, but you're saying that you are open to them trying to shape public opinion about it.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
If there's opportunities to do that, yeah. Of course.
We were just trying to figure out what that would look like. I of course think that my default assumption is in order to expand the court, we actually have to talk about it and run on it. But if we can do it like an indirect way, I don't give a shit as long as the court gets expanded. So we were trying to nail this disagreement out before I dipped.
Mm-hmm. Hutch, what's your reason for not wanting to expand the court, or you don't think it's like a good thing for them to run on yet?
No, it's not that I oppose expanding the court. I said they shouldn't run on it because we're out of power right now. And if we signal an intent to expand the Supreme Court next time we get power, what's to stop the Republicans from eliminating the filibuster now and then doing, not only packing the court, but eliminating the filibuster to do like a lot of horrible things in the next year, where hopefully, hopefully we can win the midterms. I don't know about this fucking voting rights.
I feel like every single what if scenario, like what if the Republicans do that? It's like usually they're already doing that, or there's nothing stopping them from doing that. So I think that the Democrats need to not determine their position based. I'm not saying they should ignore it entirely, but I don't think it should really factor in like what the Republicans are going to do in a very significant way at all, because
they're going to do it anyway.
They're not going to be consistent on this. Like back when Scalia died or whatever, McConnell's like, well, he's a lame duck, so we don't want to appoint a judicial nominee to the Supreme Court during the lame duck session. And then when they had the opportunity to get Amy Coney Barrett on the court, obviously they reversed that and they just did whatever the fuck they want. And don't you have Republicans now calling for them to get rid of the filibuster? And like they've already
they sidestep it when they can.
I think it was like Marjorie Taylor Greene. I realize like she's an outspoken voice right now and kind of like a lone voice, but you'll see these sorts of sentiments already pushing or like already coming from Republicans right now that are, to the extent that there's household name Republicans, they are putting this on the table as a thing that they want to do.
Well, the filibusters, I mean, just so I don't know. I think there's been like a few voices at a few different times in terms of Republicans that have been calling to just get rid of the filibuster generally, but this is certainly not a mainstream position. There's not any real threat of that happening right now. Thune has not indicated that he's going to get rid of the filibuster anytime soon. Like he's resisted Donald Trump. Like Donald Trump has called for the filibuster to be removed and they haven't removed it yet. But as soon as you say like we are going to pack the court, then they just will do that. Like and
Donald Trump has not made a serious effort. I think he's like gone. He just like said something, but that's not like a serious position that Trump is committed to. I don't think so at all.
I'll have so much political cover to do that at that point. So I think this idea that we shouldn't really worry about Republicans, what they'll do in response to the things that we'll do, I don't really think that makes sense, because they can do some really awful things if we're not thoughtful and careful.
They could do some awful things.
What do you think about that? Like, I feel Hutch, it sounds weird for you to say it's like a fringe thing, but then you're saying that like, well, even Trump has called for it, which I didn't even realize.
I mean in the Congress. We're not seeing any like push to get rid of the filibuster when it comes to the Republican Party in Congress.
Yeah, I don't. We talked about this a bit, and I'll be super quick. I don't think the Republican Party has a principled attachment to the filibuster. I think they see it as a means to an end. I think historically speaking, they do not view the filibuster as an impediment to the lion's share of their agenda, because they care mostly about judges and tax cuts. And so when it came to judges, the Supreme Court in particular, they made an exception to the filibuster, nuclear carve-out. So they fucked with the filibuster. There was no need for them to abolish it wholesale, because they could keep it in reserve and use it against Democrats where they pleased. And then for the shit that got in their way that they cared about most, they were willing to kind of like whittle away at it and chip at it. And I just think that that's how the Republican Party views it. How like you have an increasing number of populists like Marjorie Taylor Greene who are just openly saying fuck the filibuster. But the reason that John Thune, who's the Senate Majority Leader, is holding on to it is because I think he just doesn't see right now that he needs to break that glass, and to get rid of it wholesale would mean that if and when Democrats ever get back in power, they would have a clear field.
So why wouldn't they do more permanent stuff with the one big beautiful bill? Like why? Also,
nobody is going to catch this because this video ends in like 5 minutes. But like, notice what Hutch said. Like, notice what was the fear before, right? If Democrats talk about packing the courts, it's over because conservatives are going to actually do it. And now we've been presented new information. Oh, well, Trump and conservatives already talked about packing the court. So does that mean we should do it? No? Why the double standard? No? If the conservatives already brought it up. So does that just mean that we literally have to follow them on every single action? They have to do every single thing first, and then we're always just one step behind because we're always waiting for them to be unhinged?
Why wouldn't they do much more expansive permanent things, which they could do if they just got rid of the filibuster?
I don't, because again, I'm not sure what you think like their highest, like the stuff that they cared about the most was the tax cuts, which they made permanent in the one big beautiful bill. So again, that was McConnell's rationale for not getting rid of the filibuster when Trump demanded it back in 2017, 2018 or whatever. Again, they the stuff that they cared about the most, their high priority, they just didn't need to abolish the filibuster wholesale. They just make exceptions and tinker with it when and where they please. And again, the OBB, it wasn't a nuclear exception, but they did. And again, I have to go back and read the article about it.
Talking about it, why haven't they done it? Because they don't need to.
Sidestepped the filibuster on that by fucking with procedure.
It's not stopping them from doing anything.
So these like anti-majoritarian traditions or rules, they'll either make exceptions to them or find other ways to work around them, even when they think it's a high enough priority.
So your whole thing is like we're on a ticking clock. The filibuster is going to go one way or the other.
Yep.
I think it's already not there. I don't know if it's going to be abolished wholesale, because I know like even Democrats call for the abolition of the filibuster, but I'm not sure if and when Democrats get back into power that they would vote and just get rid of it for the reasons that we talked about earlier, which is we love it when we're out of power and we hate it when we're in power. I think it'll just be it's kind of like an ice cube in hot water. I think it's just going to slowly melt over time rather than totally evaporate in an instant.
Well, I mean, I just want to be the one in power when there's like some serious pullback from the filibuster. Like, I don't think strategically it makes a lot of sense to be pushing for this kind of move when we're out of power. Like, you would have to explain. Yeah. I want to be. I mean, I feel like
this is about like what they run on in the midterms and then leading up to 2028. No.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, like, because I was trying to still find this poll, unless I miss, like, I don't think, I'm certainly not advocating for, and I don't think Aaron is either, that Democrats should be saying, let's abolish the filibuster right now, like, no, I agree with you. No, we'd be like, Republicans should keep the filibuster right now. They should expand it. They should make it even more expansive.
It sounded like you were making the case that, they're not principally they're attached to the filibuster and, they're already doing everything.
Like they are. I thought just how you were saying that very plainly, and I think it's true. It's a means to an end, and to the extent that they care about it, it's because it's useful to their party, and when it stops being useful, they will magically suddenly find some other more principled reason to oppose it or get rid of it or why it needs to be abolished or whatever.
Well, again, not abolish it wholesale. I genuinely don't believe that the Republicans will do that, because again, it's throwing out the baby with the bathwater. I think what they'll do is that what they have done in the past, which is that they will sidestep it through procedural shenaniganry, or they'll invoke the nuclear option. They'll go nuclear and say, okay, when it comes to this specific bill or this specific type of legislation, it's no longer filibuster proof. All you need is a simple majority.
True. They've done that a few times this year. They've passed things through budget reconciliation, right?
Yeah, but that's a procedure that, like, just by default, it's only with a simple majority. I can't remember, like, chicken or egg, which one came first. Maybe Hutch knows, or I would probably know.
Budget reconciliation was devised after the introduction of the filibuster, and it was just a way for them to do, more budget-oriented bills. And
where the fuck is the shopkeeper in this fucking level?
The point is that they could do much more expansive legislation if they wanted to right now, if they just got rid of the filibuster. And what I'm saying is, if Democrats run on, hey, we're going to do that, if you guys give us the power, that give us the trifecta, we will get rid of the filibuster and then do court reform. If you do that now, they will get rid of the filibuster tomorrow and just start doing much more expansive bills than what we saw in the one big beautiful bill. So tactically, I just think taking shots when you're out of power, when they have the power to get rid of the filibuster, just seems tactically stupid.
Why would they do something?
I guess this to me seems sort of like fatalistic to the point.
Why would they do something more than what they did for the one big beautiful bill? They didn't need the majority to do the one big beautiful bill. They could have just done whatever with the one big beautiful bill. No?
It's like, since we're out of power, how does this not just apply to every single thing that Democrats could try to make a cornerstone of their campaign?
Yep. It's because of
like
filibuster
if you try
is
to make Medicare and
like
running on Medicare reform an issue, they're going to try to like cut Medicare even more, which they've already done. Or if you try to run on like transports or something like that, then they're going to oppose it. If you try to run on being pro-choice, they'll run on a really, really big like anti-choice push. Like they've already done and are doing these things. I feel like at some point you do kind of have to take the gamble of hoping that the position that you're going to posit will be popular enough, not only as a salient campaign pitch, but will actually win you your race. And then once you're in power, you can exert it. And over the Republicans and their minoritarian rule.
I mean, I'm going to dip out. I've had to piss so badly for like an hour and a half. And Hutch, I just want to say again, this is part of the problem. This is what I mean. My day, just talking to you is so much fun.
It is.
And it ends up becoming an 8-hour fucking thing. Yeah, but the problem is, I have no impulse control when it comes to this. This is why I get one guide so easy. This is the problem. I just lack all discipline. And even the second video that I dropped, I realized I didn't put a description. I didn't put tags in it. I didn't put anything. I just went public because I was like, fuck it, I'm talking to Hutch. Let's just get the shit out here.
People often tell me I have a magnetic personality. So what you're demonstrating right now.
Well, to be fair, it's not just you. This is the problem. Like when Aaron and I have conversations, they last 8 hours. The same thing with Pisco and like everything. Like it's just there's a problem, and this is why. Well, I can't. I guess I can't quibble with that. Certainly, the sex appeal is unparalleled coming from you. But look, it's been fun. I appreciate it. You guys have a lot of fun, and I'm definitely on Aaron's side when it comes to court packing. All right. Okay, just want to put that out there. Aaron, succeed where I have failed to persuade Hutch.
I will do my best.
All right.
Wow. Apparently, nothing to do with this, although the timing is inconvenient. But apparently, Jessiah has stepped back from Live and Learn. But I think it's because Jessiah's he does all of his stuff on his own. He does all of his editing, his video uploading. He does a ton of videos per day, reads his news and everything. So I just think he has time for it. Nice. Oh, wait, what am I looking for? This. Okay. Can I join your... Oh, fuck. Maybe later. Zip, zip. I love you. My little mixer thing is here, and I need to fuck with my cameras tonight. Tomorrow I go to Vegas. If you are near Vegas, come to... oh, zip, zip. I might be able to hop on later to like food shop stream or something. Maybe. We'll see. But tomorrow I go to Vegas. I will be in Vegas for the event on the 22nd. Make sure you guys come out. You might see me get killed in real life. How much fun would that be? And then I should stream on the 24th. I have to go to London again to do the Mohammed hijab thing. This is a rough month, okay? Next month, I'll be streaming more. I promise. Because I love you guys. Okay. We're going to cappuccino. Wait. No cappuccinos yet. Okay. K-pop demon hunter complex as a centaur. It's centaur, right? B, big bear, bugbear, uni. I, hang up, liar, and capri. Hmm. Is a liar a monster? Like a demon, a centaur, a bugbear, and a liar? Or is this an instrument that the fucking weirdo people play? Liar. Fiddle. I don't remember. Fuck. This is gonna be one off. This is gonna be one off. Oh, okay, never mind. Just kidding. Unibrow. Eyebrow. Demon brow. B-brow. No. Univision. Isn't that like a news network for Spanish people? I don't even know. Okay, hold on. Uni is another word for college or university, but that doesn't. Waste and a conversation. Hang up. Okay. Capri Sun. B Sun. Big Bear Sun. Kason. Jesus. Oh wait, abbreviations for drinks? Like a Capri Sun, a pop, soda pop? Oh. Oh my god. A, AB, liar, are these like homophones or something? Like liar, uni, I, as, no, pop, Capri, complex and complex, no, fuck, okay, you can have a hang up. No, oh my god. Oh, a hang up, a complex. I'm fucked. I'm not gonna get any of these. Like letters? I don't know. I have no idea. Fuck me. One away. God damn it. B K A K A I. As pop. Fuck me, dude. B as I A K I have no idea. Fuck me. I don't know, dude. Get me out of here. Affliction. What? Hold on. He has a bugbear? I've never heard that term in my entire life. I would have never gotten that. He has demons, I guess. He has a complex or a hang-up. I would never use these as the same way as like demon. That seems really weird, but okay. Presented by constellations. I don't think I knew any of these. A big bear, or represented by constellation. A centaur, a hunter, a liar. Okay. Periodic table symbols. I don't know. What iodine is K? I don't even know. I want to say potassium. I don't know if that's true. Be beryllium, and As is Asgard. As aluminum. It's going to be something weird, that is some metal or something I haven't heard of. Oh, arsenic. It is. And then acorn, Capricorn, popcorn. What is a unicorn? Oh my God. Okay. All right. I might stream tomorrow, or I might not, and I'll be back in 5 days, 3 days. Oh no, I'll be live in Vegas, so be careful. I love you. Don't die. Quick 950. Oh. If I throw up a 950 or higher, then I don't get killed at my event. Oh, rip. I'm sorry. I love you guys. Wait, one more chance. If I get a 952 or higher. Okay, 955 or higher. Hold on. This is it. Fuck me. Good luck.